Coming up on this week's Twit, we have an international panel with Father Robert Ballister in the Vatican City. We have Doc Rock in Hawaii, and here in the studio, Harry McCracken and myself, Iain Thomson, all going through the week's tech news. And you've got choices from OpenAI, how could we not, considering the week it's been, Google's Manifest V3 plans, which could disable your ad blocker, and possibly the weirdest case we've had to discuss here, the Church of AI. You can find out more shortly.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, the Week in Tech, episode 955, recorded on Sunday, November the 26th, 2023. Marmite or nothing.
This episode of This Week in Tech is brought to you by our friends at IT Pro TV, now ACI Learning. ACI's new solution, Insights, assists in identifying and fixing skill gaps in your IT teams. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit. Twit listeners can receive up to 65% off an IT Pro Enterprise Solution Plan. It's based on your team size, so complete the form and get a properly quoted discount tailored to your needs. And by Miro, the online workspace for innovation, where your team can dream, design, and build the future together from any location. Tap into a way to map processes, visualize content, run retrospectives, and keep all your documents and data in one place. Get your first 3 boards for free at miro.com/podcast. And by Mint Mobile. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service this holiday season with Mint Mobile's best wireless deal of the year. For a limited time, buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months free by going to mintmobile.com/twit.
Hello and welcome to Twit, the Week in Tech, and it's your chance to hear about the week's news by some of the people that actually know most about it. And it's an international show. Joining us from the Vatican, we have Padre, digital Jesuit. How are things out there? How are the cats?
Cats are good. It's actually gotten proper cold, and yesterday we had a windstorm that blew down a bunch of trees around here. So, I guess winter has arrived, and El Nino is rearing its ugly head.
Well, it's that time of the year down south, but here it's beautiful, crystal clean, and very, very dry.
Oh,
and speaking
I hate you right now.
Isn't that the default position, though, Padre? And joining us in the studio, in fact, we have Harry McCracken. Hi, Harry. Welcome
Ian.
aboard.
Good to see you in person.
Indeed. We ran into each other at the charity thing the other month, but yes, and just back from New York, as I understand it.
Back at midnight Sunday morning, so yes.
Okay. Well, if you need me to prod you, no, you don't get jet lag that bad from New York. But Harry, of course, global technology editor at Fast Company, and has been a stalwart of the scene for, how long have you been doing it now? 30 years?
Doing tech or doing Fast Company?
Doing tech.
Gosh, tech, almost close to 33 years. 33 years next spring.
Well, that's a considerable amount of experience, which we'll be plumbing. And of course, from Hawaii, we have Doc Rock. How are things out there, you lucky devil?
Actually, it's proper cold here, too. It's 79 degrees and cloudy.
79 degrees is proper cold, is it? Right, okay. I should try to for the rest of the world that doesn't use Fahrenheit, what's that, about 21, 22? I'm not sure what it is in non-freedom units.
But 22 degrees Celsius. Yeah, just about. It's nice. That's nice.
26.11.
My heart bleeds for you, mate.
Oh, my gosh.
But thank you for joining us anyway. We've got a full week of tech news. And let's start off with the elephant in the tech room, as it were. Certainly this Thanksgiving dinner, I was giving thanks for one key thing. At last, OpenAI seemed to be sorted out. We wouldn't have to write every day about it. So Sam Altman is back at the helm. There's been a corporate reorg. The board of directors has been reshuffled. All this after over 500 staff, most of the staff, threatened that they will quit and go to Microsoft unless Altman came back. Now, Harry, you did a very good newsletter about this, which was basically starting out as sort of, okay, as of 9 o'clock this morning, this is the situation. Can you talk us through it?
Yeah, I wrote that the day before, and I was aware that after a few days of trying to have takes on OpenAI that there was no take that would keep fresh for like 12 hours. So I wrote a newsletter where no matter what happened, my newsletter would be sort of relevant. And when I wrote it, it looked like Altman might come back to OpenAI, and by the next morning, we knew he was coming back.
Yeah.
But my general take was just sort of that a lot of the weirdness was because this was AI. If this had been like a file compression software company, the stakes would have been, not even a millionth as high, and none of this would have happened. And therefore, I think we will see more unprecedented corporate weirdness just as this technology gets to be everywhere. I'm not sure we will see many things as strange as this, but I expect we'll see behavior that we have not seen from tech companies in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I was surprised. It's can't remember a situation where a large company, all the staff threatened to quit. I mean, well, okay, not all. There are a few hangouts, and boy, haven't they got to be feeling quite awkward at the moment. But I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, who has done well out of this, apart from Altman himself? I mean, is it
Microsoft?
You think? Because I'm not sure about this, but go for it.
I think so, because in a way, when he's there or not, they've already had the conversation, so he knows he has a position no matter what. Theoretically, based off their investment and now based off an allegiance tighter with Sam, if it ever came to a point where it needed to be sold for parts, Microsoft is going to score the best deal ever on what would have been an extremely valuable, what was it at the time, $88 billion pickup. So that's why I feel like Microsoft scored. I think that's it in a nutshell. Like, if it ever had to get sold for parts for whatever reason, Microsoft is in the position to scoop fastest.
Interesting. I mean,
also, Microsoft was able to flex.
Yes, they were.
The flex on this was incredible. The fact that they were essentially able to say, hey, look, we're just an investor. We're a big investor, but we're going to hire your former CEO and the former co-founder, and we're going to start up our own group over here. And that it basically made them rethink their entire existence. That is the biggest flex in corporate history in the last decade.
100%.
And the investors
and
aren't
buy
going to
all
forget
your
that.
employees. We'll buy all 500 employees, no problem. Oh, the janitor, the driver guy, whatever you got, we'll pay for them all. We got this.
Well, I mean, Mark Benioff tried to jump in and hire people as well. So, I mean, it's like there was a lot of demand for the talent, and I guess they knew that.
Oracle, Salesforce, they were going crazy. They were making offers on Twitter saying, "Hey, we'll match anything, all your vested in your investments. We'll match everything. We'll match your salary. We'll increase it. Just come work for us." And I mean, that had to put the fear of God into the OpenAI board.
I started that fight because I tweeted Tim Cook hire Sam right away on the first news, and so I think I scared everybody. Because Apple could have did it, but they're doing some secret scroll stuff right now, but we'll leave them out of it.
I don't know. I was talking to somebody at Microsoft, and they were really quite peeved about it because they don't work in this area, but they know that a lot of the people who are working in Microsoft's AI area aren't getting paid anywhere near OpenAI salaries.
Right.
And for them to be offered, yes, we'll match your salary and the rest of it. And the people who were already there were just like, sort of, not that keen on that, to be honest, unless I get a big pay rise too. It's but I mean, has Microsoft come out of this particularly covered in glory? I mean, Satnam did a great tweet, just like sort of, yes, everything's great, and I'm glad it's all back on. And yeah, they've still got their 49% share, but I don't know. I don't think Microsoft came out of this looking particularly good. It certainly looked like they didn't have a grip on the company beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it must be a little embarrassing that they let this go on for as long as they did. Although, I think probably in the long run, the fact this happened now was way better for Microsoft than if it happened a few years from now after the stakes were even higher. So given that this was a ticking time bomb, I think that Microsoft did pretty well. It was kind of amusing to see it at every stage of this. Satya always got on Twitter and said, "We'll be fine. We're happy to work with whoever is OpenAI's CEO today. We have a very strong relationship." The next day, he said, "We're going to hire all your employees, but the relationship is still going to be strong." And then it turned out he's not hiring any of the employees. Nope. And once again, the relationship is really strong. So he couldn't really, I would love to have been a fly on the wall and have seen what he really thought at every step along the way. I do think that he did a pretty intrepid job of rolling with the punches and positioning himself at every stage to be in as good condition as he could be. And this might be, when all is said and done, the best they could do. They couldn't hire more than 700 people all at once. Some of them would not have taken those jobs. Some of them would have taken the jobs, but been itching to get out of Microsoft very quickly. There's probably some value in some regulatory distance between Microsoft and this technology, as opposed to if Microsoft controlled the single most important algorithm in the world. I think the regulatory situation would be not great for them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't see a lot of OpenAI staff being very happy at Microsoft in the first, completely different cultural situation. But yeah, I mean, Satya Nadella was just trying to be very, stiff upper lip about it, if I may use the Britishism. But I mean, you're right. He must, to be a fly on the wall when this all broke. I mean, can you imagine what it was like in his office? He's just like, how the hell did we get ourselves into this situation?
And I see that. From the analyst point of view, I agree with Harry. I understand why this looks really weird and destabilizing if you're looking at a long-term investment in OpenAI. However, look at what Satya and Microsoft got out of it. They have been able to take the mind share. Even as popular as AI already was, people now know definitively that Microsoft controls OpenAI. Microsoft can make OpenAI do anything it wants, even though it's technically only a partial investor. That gives them something that they didn't have to pay for. They didn't actually have to hire away all that talent. They didn't actually have to make up a new department. They didn't actually have to spin off their own division of AI. So they got all the benefits of doing that and the PR of doing that without actually having to do that. That's why I really like this. I mean, yes, you can look at this and say Microsoft was just trying to salvage something that had gone terrible, but to the average person, I mean, because we're starting an AI conference over here tomorrow.
Right.
And the people who have come in from out of the country to talk about this, they're all talking about how OpenAI and Microsoft are now the same, even though it's not.
Yes, that's why I say they won, is because the PR for them, they look like heroes and they didn't have to do anything. And I do have to agree with Harry that some of the regulatory stuff or the government slap down would have been crazy. It almost would have been back to the old AOL Time Warner merger which I got smashed in. I was writing for TUAW at the time. AOL owned, blog. And you really think about it, you're right. They looked like heroes and didn't have to do anything. So they were like the guy that just came in at the end and cleaned up, and then the owner walks in and see them with the bucket, like, oh, hey, you're cleaning up, thanks. They were just moving the bucket. But it looks like they cleaned the whole place.
Over the
Can I make one quick disclaimer here before someone finds it and makes it seem like there's a conspiracy theory here? So Helen Toner, she's the board member who really kicked this whole thing off. She's the one who raised concerns about what the technology was doing and engineered the ouster. There actually is a Jesuit connection. She works for Georgetown University at their emerging technology division. So her training is in recognizing perhaps threats to society with newer technologies. That's actually what she does for us. So just get that out there. Yes, there is a Jesuit connection. No, it's not nefarious. Yes, we're being very open about it.
I do feel sorry on some level for her and the other folks on the board, because if their goal was to accomplish what they were trying to accomplish, they got the opposite instead. And maybe if they had been a little bit more savvy about corporate politics, they might have given Microsoft more than 1 minute's warning, or done a better job of explaining exactly why they were unhappy with Sam Altman rather than being so vague about it. And it's conceivable, I think, that at some point in the indeterminate future, we will say this board had a point of some sort. That they did see issues. Maybe they did a really bad job of confronting how to deal with those issues. But I don't think that people worrying about how quickly the world should proceed with AI is going to go away as an issue. And,
No.
and OpenAI and Microsoft's relationship is likely to stay at the center of that issue, no matter what the relationship is between these companies or who's in charge.
Well, this is it. When you give someone $13 billion, then you expect a certain amount of trade. But, Padre, you mentioned conspiracy theories. Now, you've seen the reports on Q-Star, which was apparently the technology which really kicked all this off. How credible do you think that is?
Okay, so reading what we've been able to read, it sounds like there was some sort of technical documentation of some additional abilities that they had been able to build into an AI model that, when interpreted without understanding what the technology actually is, sounded like, oh my God, something's gained sentience. No. No.
So, I'm trying to be open-minded about this, but no, it's rubbish. You know?
No, I mean, it's really, I would love it. It would be great, but no, we're not there yet. And if they actually had created something that was that dangerous, that was that advanced, they would be touting it. They wouldn't be hiding it. So I think this is just if someone who didn't have the technical background to actually understand what they were doing, it looks like, oh, this is actual AI. I don't think we're there. No.
Not an artificial general intelligence, no. Doc, what was I heard an indraw of breath there.
Well, no, because it's just making me laugh because, everyone's so afraid about, AI taking their jobs. I'm like, the thing that's going to be crazy when we do read sentence is because our other half, domestic partners, whatever, all assume we have it and we don't. And then when this thing does, we're the ones that's done. Your job is fine, but you might be removed from the home.
Yeah, it's, I don't think it was Ian Banks who came up with the idea of if a computer actually became self-aware, the first thing it would do would pretend that it wasn't because it knew it was going to get turned off. But
that is brilliant.
The first thing it would do is it would dress itself up as Clippy.
Oh, somebody did an amazing supercut that was running around the TikTok, Twitter, Instaverse, and it was like, Clippy the Terminator coming in now that, Clippy sees this world's domination. It was really incredible and well done and extremely Michael Bay.
Lots of explosions then, because we know that's what Michael Bay loves. Yes, it's...
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know, the report I saw said that it was very good at maths quizzes, and you kind of like... It's hardly Terminator territory. I mean, it's... I'm kind of with you, Padre, on this in that, for all the stuff about this could be the end of mankind and the rest of it, I've got severe doubts about whether or not that's going to happen. Certainly based on...
And there were a number of reports that said the reports of that being at the heart of this were incorrect, so it's a little hard to know what to make of it just right now.
Yeah, I think that's a fantasy. The more believable bit, it actually was brought up by CR1 in the old Twit Army chat room, which was there was probably someone who was looking at how good AI is at creating disinformation. Not just creating the content for disinformation, but being able to propagate it. Now, that actually is something that should cause us pause, but that's not going to stop the advancement of AI because we've got disinformation now.
Yeah.
And we're very good at disinformation even without AI.
Yes.
But I could see how a board member might look at that and say, in my conscience, I have to say we have to stop because we don't have a safeguard for this. Unfortunately, that's not how the industry works.
I do not want to take this dark in any way, but I always laugh at the people that speak of the disinformation. Anyone that went to school in the United States of America and went through a history class that was extremely manicured, I'll be nice. We've been doing disinformation before the first spin of the internet ever happened, before there was ever a cable line. We've been doing it for quite a long time. And then I guess the other thing which is funny is we can create bifurcation on something as crazy as PlayStation versus Xbox or Mac versus PC or Apple versus Android. So sometimes it doesn't even matter if the information is correct or not. People will stand their ground and, keep all of their cognitive dissonance. So AI is not going to solve that. It just isn't. Now, what will scare me is if I open up Chat GPT today and it says the reports of my death are my demise are greatly exaggerated, then I might start to worry. But we're not there yet. So,
I know. I remember when ChatGPT first came out, like, you ego surf. Of course you do. So it's just like,
Yes.
who is Ian Thomson, journalist? And the response was like, Ian Thomson is an award-winning journalist who has written for The Guardian, The Wired, and The New York Times. Well, never won an award outside of school, and I've never written for The Guardian, Wired, or The New York Times. So I was kind of like, maybe a bit oversold on this one. But
You got coupons for shopping, and then they gave you like extra coupons for the next time you shop. Those are awards.
At least at the start, it thought everybody had written for the New York Times. And it listed a number of books I had written when, in fact, I haven't even written one book.
Oh yeah, apparently I've written a book on Linux, which I've then suffered a grand mal attack and forgotten about, and certainly haven't received any royalty checks anyway. But I mean, looking longer term, the future of OpenAI as a non-profit and a profit company, can it work, or is this basically the death of the non-profit side?
We certainly saw the way it has been structured up until now wasn't going to work because Microsoft and the investors had so much leverage when push came to shove, even if theoretically they didn't. So I think one of the big outstanding questions is there a way to have some sort of nonprofit, good for humanity layer to this thing that's likely to make a lot of people a lot of money and be really important to how the world does almost everything.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like they were kind of trying to put the brakes on the move fast and break things ethos that is in Silicon Valley. Badra, do you think what's going to happen to the non-profit side? I mean, you're coming from technically a non-profit organization yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so the cynical side of myself is saying, no, anytime you inject that much money into such a young company that is creating services that will change the way that we view information, no, the nonprofit side dies. Now, I will say that if they're willing to provide something akin to what we've seen in some open source foundations, where they are allowing for-profit enterprises to take their technologies and build upon it the models that they need to do whatever it is that they need it to do, while keeping that central kernel available for use by nonprofits, like, for example, Jesuit Refugee Services, which would love to use an AI model that could help them figure out where we're going to see hotspots around the world. You know, basically just massive data dumps run through a natural learning model. You could do that, but it would have to be very different from what we see in OpenAI right now, because OpenAI, as we know it, is currently focused on growth. And anytime you got something that's focused on growth and there's this much money involved, the not-for-profit side is going to die. It's going to lose.
Yeah, I mean, it's and then in terms of Sam Altman's own personal standard, he's come out of this much, much stronger. I mean, basically, it seems he can dictate pretty much where the company goes.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a little bit of a cult of personality. I mean, you've got the Mark Zuckerberg effect coming here. I remember, rewind 10 years.
Yeah, but
when
people
Mark
like
Zuckerberg,
Altman. They don't like Zuckerberg.
Well, but back then they did. I mean, remember, in the early days when Facebook went private, people trusted the vision of Zuckerberg. When he said, I'm always going to have the voting percentage of the board, no one batted an eye because they thought, okay, he can shepherd the company. Now, that's changed over 10 years, obviously, because we've come to find out that Mark Zuckerberg is not good at emulating humans. But with OpenAI, we're seeing a little bit of that. Okay, he can do no wrong. It's the Elon Muskification of a new field in tech.
Yeah. Sam has a do the right thing patina, which we won't find out like really what's secretly going on in his head until he buys Twitter. Because, you know, there was some writing on the wall with Elon prior to Twitter. Let's just get that straight. Nobody should pretend like they didn't know this was built in. But right now, Sam is not emoting any of that in my evil laboratory. So I think right now we're okay. And, you know, even going to WAPO, you know, talking about like he was fired by his mentor at YCOM back in the day. I'm like, dude, I get it, but like let's not paint with a heavy brush You know, a lot of these guys are doing this stuff as they're growing up. I mean, my first thought when they threw Mira to the dogs in the beginning and like she's going to run the company, I'm like, you're going to put something this important in the hands of a 32, 33-year-old female? It says to me that you're just looking for a scapegoat. So when something goes wrong, you can blame her. So she was smart and be like, nah, man, I'm signing this letter. I'm going to go kick it with Sam and the boys. I'm not going to take that position, right? She was very brilliant in that because anybody who knows how this works knows they were totally setting her up. Whether they meant to do it or not, they just was totally setting her up that if anything went really wrong after, she was going to catch all the blame. And luckily, she had the wherewithal not to be in that position. I think as Sam matures, we're going to find out what happens. How he's treated now will probably set him up for how he matures, and how he matures will generate whether it becomes like the evil empire or not.
Yeah, I mean,
he's still malleable.
I mean, do you think the Muskification of Altman is complete now, or is is he actually going to take it? Because I mean, he was rabid on not rabid, but he was very skilled at playing the social media game during all this.
Well, I mean, he is way more self-disciplined than the current version of Elon Musk does, and I think he has kind of been turbocharged by this because yes, it's not like he's always been universally beloved or everybody has always thought he's a great guy or is fantastic at everything. And at the moment, he's going to have this incredible honeymoon period, I expect, and maybe he can continue to get that snowballing. But I mean, Elon Musk is a little bit unique in terms of this combination
Thank goodness.
of superpowers and a complete inability to work in his own best interests.
Yes. Yes.
Can we do an aside here? Because there's an important aspect, and that is now that Altman has survived the ouster, the board has no power. I mean, the whole reason you have a board is supposed to be able to rein in the CEO. It's toothless now, and they realize, at least for the near future, they can't do anything to him. He could go into every board meeting and shoot rubber bands at them for the entire time, and they can't do a damn thing because they realize they shot the one bullet in the gun and it missed.
Yeah.
This is the whole if you come for the king, you better not miss. They missed. So until he screws up, or until the company becomes extremely unprofitable, he can do anything he wants at OpenAI. So if he had a notion to really push forward as fast as he possibly could to grow for the sake of growth, now is the time for him to do it.
He is working on all these various side projects, and it'll be interesting to see whether OpenAI turns out to be Sam Altman's life's work, or if at some point something else is more exciting to him personally and he moves on, because YC theoretically could have been his life's work too, and he moved on from that.
Well, moved on is a very polite way of saying got fired for pushing personal priorities, and also there was some double dealing, I think, in a startup with his brother. And getting fired, okay, it's happened to pretty much everyone on the planet, but I mean, to get fired for dropping your work and possibly personally enriching yourself isn't a great look when you've now got the dominant control of OpenAI, surely.
Yeah, I mean, it's the other examples of people trying to run multiple companies at once, with the possible exception of Steve Jobs, usually doesn't seem like such a great thing, and usually does not come to a good end. And I really wonder, like 5 years from now, will Sam Altman still be running OpenAI? Quite possibly, but I wouldn't bet a lot of money on that. Something else may have become more interesting to him in the interim.
Yeah.
So I like that connection, Harry, because one of my first thoughts, and I grant that the climate is different. One of my very first thoughts when it went in, and I actually sent this tweet out. I sent a tweet out of Steve's, during this, the standard Steve post going, Sam, my son, you know exactly what to do, because it does have some 1985, patina to it. However, the thing that made it different is with Twitter and with the ability to groundswell, external support, we were able to, the situation was able to stop him from going to create Pixar next and then come back and, and roll OS 10 out. So there were some interesting sort of connections to that. And it's really funny, some people made parallels to it, but not as many people did as they should. But I do think it's funny to see the difference in the way the climate was then versus now, how fast he was able to recover.
Yeah, it was a bit of a resurrection in terms of his in terms of his position. I mean, I mean, we both had the same problem as journalists trying to cover this, was that, you just didn't know what was going to happen day in, day out. And everyone had a theory and nobody had a source they trusted. So, I don't know. It always makes me nervous when you get someone with that much control over a company. It worked for Steve Jobs. It worked a little bit for Gates, but he then did the Internet Explorer rush job, which got them into serious trouble. Jobs wasn't perfect by any manner of means, but at least he got stuff done, and Apple has really not invented that much since he left this planet, as it were. But it's always dangerous when, you get one person running the roost. I mean, I can't think of a technology company where it's really worked long term. Can you? Anyone? I'll open the floor.
Oracle, maybe?
Oracle left to my mind, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oracle's a bad word where I live.
I mean, no, it's not a loved company, but it's
because Larry bought Lanai, it's a beloved island.
Oh, right, the island. Sorry.
So
yeah,
that's
I
a
remember that.
little bit controversial, but I mean, I agree with you.
Sorry, yeah, he bought Larry Ellison has actually now got his own private island. I mean, this is stepping towards the supervillain. If he combines with Elon Musk and they get rocketry on there, then we're all doomed. It's as simple as that. But
I mean, he bought his own island, but he didn't realize that there are no such thing as private beaches in Hawaii. Every beach is a public beach.
Correct.
And he didn't like that because rich people should not have to share beaches with poor.
Yes.
Well, that really annoys Richard Branson as well, because he bought an island in the British Virgin Islands, and under UK law, yes, you cannot own the ground between the high tide spot and the low tide spot. So he's got this luxurious Necker Island, which I think costs about $10,000 a day to stay at. And all these yachties sort of turn up and have a party on his beach, and there's nothing he can do about it, which is quite fun. Anyway, moving onwards with this. In the long term, is this going to be a problem just for OpenAI, or is there major reshuffles going on in all the AI companies? Because Anthropic brought out a new product. We've got other AI company startups going left, right, and center, and we're getting bombarded with press releases. Is this a fundamentally unstable? Is it just that the stage we're at in the hype cycle and the growth cycle, there's going to be a lot of changes around?
It definitely made a lot of people start to look at things like Claude and Llama and some of the other large language models because people were panicked. And I was explaining this to my community yesterday because, some guys, we were doing some training and people were talking about how they're having a hard time doing stuff on ChatGPT now. It must have to do with Sam. And I was like, no, not really. Like, here's the common sense move. If I'm writing my book and I'm using ChatGPT to help, I'm doing some research project, and all of a sudden the board and Sam have this little, lover's quarrel over the last week, you start worrying whether the service is going to get shut down. So everybody who had been doing their weekend projects, they were like really hustling, trying to get this thing done before, their accounts got canceled or, ChatGPT Plus went away. So it's just the nature of a service. If Amazon said, hey, we're going to end Prime next month, people will go and try to finish out their watch list to make sure they get in, Good Omens and all of those other shows through their head before before it disappears. So, like I said, David Tennant is the best. Sorry. Anyway,
We'll talk about that later, young man.
I'm teasing. Anyway, I think it really is that. And you're right. It is giving these other guys a chance to shine, but it's really also funny how when you have a product that has the Kleenex moniker, it's the name for all tissue, whether it's that exact product or not, they're a little bit hard to move, especially, remember back in the day where everything that made a noise must have been Sound Blaster? And I was like, Sound Blaster was dead in the water. People were still talking about the Sound Blaster created was milled for pieces. I think we're in that position right now. So hopefully it will let some of these other guys shine, because that takes away that single source problem. It becomes different when not one person can control it. So I would like to see Claude and Llama and some of these other guys catch up to the name recognition, if nothing else, because that at least eliminates everybody worrying about the one thing.
There is that, indeed. That's right. Well, Leo may be away, but he is here in spirit. And here's a word from one of our sponsors.
Thank you, Iain. Thank you for letting me interrupt to tell you about HID Global, our sponsor for this portion of This Week in Tech. Leave the stress of tedious PKI management behind in 2023 and 2024 for that matter. Stress less with complete certificate lifecycle automation from HID Global's PKI as a service model. You know, with Google moving towards 90-day SSL certificates, you don't want to get caught in a tough place. It's really important that you have automation to renew those certificates on a regular basis. HID's model of automation is easy. It doesn't require any additional hardware or software investment or installs to automate the life cycles of your organization's certificates. When a new one's needed, it gets it, and you're done. For Google and Mac systems, HID's connector model of PKI uses open source certificate utilities. That means your organization can easily use multiple operating systems, almost a must-have, right, in these day and age of BYOD. It'll also ease your procurement pains. With HID Global, you'll get up and running in 2 weeks. That's bunches quicker than the competitors. Their assistance with deployment always includes their incomparable white glove service, expertise, and knowledge. And, of course, you're going to receive ownership of your private keys. HID takes care of your PKI so you can spend your holidays and weekends taking care of yourself, your family, and the things that matter to you outside work. I think this is something you want to do before the end of the year. Go to hid.link/twitdemo right now. hid.link/twitdemo. Now back to Iain and the gang and Twit.
Thanks very much, Leo. And I happen to know that he's offline at the moment, but hopefully he will view this and not want to hunt me down and kill me. Right, now we've mentioned Elon Musk in the previous conversation, but he too has had a busy week. It wouldn't be a week in technology if he didn't have a busy week making headlines. But he has sued Media Matters over research saying that some of his advertisers are being put next to neo-Nazi posts. Now, obviously, we can make the easy joke about, they obviously did not see that coming, but it's always a bad sign when people get out the lawsuit, surely. Anyone got... it just seems like the minute you reach for the lawyers, you've almost lost the argument.
Especially if...
It's kind of table stakes now, isn't it? I mean, everyone sues everybody, and you always rush to judgment saying, remember how this came out. I am going to sue them. The first thing on Monday, there's going to be a nuclear lawsuit headed their direction. And then he was in a corner because if he didn't file, he was going to lose face. And if he did file, and it's not a super strong case.
No, I mean, I read through the court documents, and it's kind of, it's a wish list of what they could have happened. But I mean, we've all been on Twitter and we've all seen what's been going on. It just seemed like, particularly last week with the way he was basically supporting a Nazi post, as far as I could see. I mean, it's an odd piece of behaviour. I mean, Harry, you pointed out that he doesn't seem to know, how to rein himself in on this front. Do you think he's onto a winner with this?
I mean, probably not. The bar is so high for winning a lawsuit like this. And the elephant in the room is, even if, I guess the crux of the lawsuit is that there were almost no instances of ads being placed next to these Nazi posts, and maybe a high percentage of the time it happened were Media Matters engineering its own feed in order to see it. But even if all of that is true, and that somehow does work in Twitter/X's favor as a lawsuit, the elephant in the room is Elon Musk on Twitter speaking approvingly of this horrific anti-Semitic content on his own site, and so the ad placements seem like the smaller problem for X than what its owner has been doing. And if he doesn't rein himself in, their reputation is not going to survive, and they will continue to have these issues, which seem to be really significant, of advertisers fleeing the platform.
Well, I mean, it was quite funny having IBM pull out, considering their role in the Holocaust. Fun fact, there's a journalist with the Guardian newspaper in the UK, actually, they wrote an article about IBM's history in the Holocaust, where they sold computers to the Nazis that were used to round up people to go to the camps. And so she wrote this article and then got IBM's PR on the phone saying, well, a couple of things. First off, IBM actually pulled out of the country in 1937, and I don't think anyone really realized how bad Hitler was until 1937. And you say our our support of our work with the Nazi regime was shameful. I think maybe a better word would be unfortunate. Just like, are you absolutely kidding me? But I mean, if IBM are pulling out, everyone else is pulling out. Was that genuinely because of the Nazi thing, or was it was just like, we're sick of Twitter, we're sick of our brand's being dragged down.
Let's get out. 1,000 cuts. It was 1,000. It was 997 of 1,000 cuts, just because of all the other things that has been going on. And I mean, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it's Elon Musk. I mean, come on, dude. Like, you've been fanning the flame. Even if, I don't even want to give him credit for joking, but let's just say in supposition he was joking, or he's just fanning flame to get activity going on X again. You're still doing something dumb, like going up to a fire and then putting lighter fluid on it is not going to make the entire building burn down, but you're not helping. So he doesn't get a pass for that. I know I saw Padre made a post, after his exactly that, whatever tweet he said. So I'm just like, dude, come on. I find it funny that the richest and most powerful people who are forever talking about other people being soft or was that snowflakes or whatever, they're always the first ones to try to send a band of attorneys or something. Like, if you had a problem, go meet them face to face and see if you can handle it face to face first, if that's what you're saying, that's what really matters, because you don't need the money for the lawsuit. So what's the lawsuit for? Right? Are you just trying to own them because that's what your fans would like? Because the fans that you recently got, because you've been standing up with your fan flaming? I mean, flame fanning, whatever. I don't really understand. And I wish, here's my feelings on Elon Musk in a nutshell. I would love to have a single conversation with him, because I want to posit a question to him, and I guarantee you he would get it wrong just because of his internal brain. If I said to him, Elon, who's the richest African-American in the United States, he would not say himself, because in his head, you got to look like me, but he's from Africa.
Yeah, from South Africa to a rather unfortunate period of its history as well.
Same whatever, but, he theoretically can speak Afrikaans, but I guarantee you he wouldn't answer that question correctly, because I queried tons of people on that, and they all get it wrong, because that's just the way our brains have been brainwashed recently.
I don't know. I have a friend.
Can I poll the panel? Can I poll the panel really quickly? Just because when I saw the list of advertisers who were pulling off of Twitter, like Doc, I thought, no, these are advertisers who have wanted to pull off for a while, and this is just a good reason to finally get off the platform. But they talked about Apple, they talked about IBM, and Disney. I haven't seen any of those ads in months, if not the full year. Most of the ads that I get on Twitter are for cheap plastic toys from China.
Temu.
Temu and Temu knockoffs. That's basically all I see now. So have you been seeing those ads?
No,
have you seen an Apple ad on Twitter recently?
I didn't think about that, but no, I have not.
No, I haven't. I mean, I'm getting spammed out with Cheech and Chong gummy adverts and various other things like that.
So
I blocked Cheech and Chong eventually.
Where were they spending?
Oh, really? Oh, you went down that route.
I mean, for a while I was seeing a lot of Disney ads, but those have been gone. And a week or two ago, almost my entire Twitter was sponsored by Oreo for some reason. That was like the only.
Oh, I've had some of those as well.
It was the only brand that I have ever heard of that was still there, and I have not seen any Oreo ads over the last few days, and I'm not sure whether the algorithm just went down a different direction or if even Nabisco got sick of it.
Yeah. I mean, they are foul biscuits, but that might be something.
Yes, they are.
These are the Oreo
The funny thing is,
Cakesters or something like that.
Oh, God, maybe. I'm sure.
Every time I see an ad for those cheapy devices that go in your car and stuff, I always block. It's the first thing I do is I block, which is weird because I will see the exact same ad from a different Twitter account like 15 times. So I'm wondering is there like a bulk package you can buy at Twitter where they will just keep putting your ads on different accounts because they know people are blocking their ads?
Could be. I tend to block. I mean, if something's obviously not something I want to hear about, I'll just block it on, and that can be, because that's actually a lot of fun, because as they start scraping the barrel of what kind of ads to show you, you can see some really interesting stuff. But yeah, no, I don't think I've ever seen an Apple ad on there, or an IBM one.
I mean, although, even when I was not seeing Apple ads, I heard that Apple was really spending quite a bit of money. So it's hard to judge from your own particular feed who is and is not advertising.
Yeah, I know. It's and this is, I guess, the central problem for the Media Matters lawsuit, because he is claiming that the algorithm was biased against them. But I've had some dealings with Media Matters. They seem to be a fairly trustworthy organisation.
There were stories in the last few days about large advertisers going to Linda Yaccarino and saying, please, Linda, for the sake of your own reputation, quit and see whether that will get Elon to change his ways.
Her Twitter feed has been very strange of late. You know, I mean,
yes.
I understand she's got a job to do, but it's you're kind of expecting to see sort of little letters, help, I'm being held against my will, you know.
If you have to say that anti-Semitism has no place on this service, you're already in trouble.
Yeah.
Do you remember that tweet she sent out about a month ago where she was saying, oh, yeah, Twitter's going to be profitable and the advertisers have come back, and everyone was just looking at it going, Are you okay? Yeah. do you need someone to come and do a welfare check?
I know. It's madness, because we had the reports this week that there's 75 million they're losing. Twitter was, as I understand, before Musk took over, Twitter was just barely profitable, and he then took it over, loaded it up with debt, and the advertisers are fleeing. So, quick poll from the panel: do you think it's going to be around in a year or two, or is this going to be quietly sort of either, if not shut down, then just become the MySpace of social networks? It's still there, but nobody really uses it.
It depends entirely if Elon is willing to pay the ego tax. If he's willing to fund it with his own money, then it can stay around. But those of us who have looked at the pre-Musk numbers and the numbers that are being generated based on how much the investments are being marked down by the banks who have loaned him money, it's not possible. In a year, he will earn less than just the debt service on the loans that he has taken out on Twitter. That's not any of the operations. That's just the debt service. So if he's willing to throw away $1 billion or $2 a year to keep Twitter open, sure, he could keep it open indefinitely. But otherwise, there's no hope to make this thing profitable.
This reminds me of my grandpa and a group of friends that all had their Chryslers or their Fords or whatever towards the end of the 70s, when we had to drive around looking for a leaded petrol because everything was unleaded. But there was a handful of guys that would not get rid of their, supercars that they had from the late 60s, early 70s, until we got to a point where there was ways to make that work. It reminds me of that, or the last bastion of folks hanging on the rotary dial. So those of us that are still there, we're not there because we want to be. It's just that the people that we communicate with the most are still kind of there. So we go there, and then to some extent, it's less noisy because you can talk exactly to the people you want to talk to. So it's an efficient form of communication. But you have had to do some serious curation to get rid of all of the nonsense. And that's just too much work for most people nowadays. So I don't think it can survive. It's just Mastodon or nothing good enough has taken its place yet. So
Well,
I don't know what
you're on
that's going to
Mastodon,
be.
aren't you, Harry? So.
I'm on Mastodon, and it's kind of fun, but it's not going to replace Twitter. And there are all kinds of Twitters I love, like News Twitter, that have not really been replicated anywhere yet.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it used to be that fire hose of information, and if something broke, then you knew it would be on Twitter somewhere.
Exactly, yeah.
It's and I think that's broken and may not be coming back. But we're going to have to see on that front, because it's just the current situation, as I see it, is untenable. Because
remember alpha.net? I think that was the first one that I thought that was really good and had a chance, and it never really took. It was like $5 a month. It came out early Twitter days. I want to call it like circa 2012. And all of us tech people went there for a minute. I think it was called alpha.net. Are you on .net or at net? Yeah, something like that. I mean, that was the closest thing, but even that fizzed.
Yeah.
Elon Twitter has made me miss Google Plus.
Oh, good Lord. When you find yourself missing that, you know you're in serious trouble, Padre.
Yeah.
Google Waves and Google Plus.
Well, this is it. I mean, Blue Sky seems very dead at the moment. Just maybe someone will come through. It's traditional in the social media sphere that companies come and companies go.
I don't see there being like a one-stop shop in the way that Twitter was a one-stop shop for almost everything, because the different Twitters are going different places. Over Thanksgiving, I talked to my sister who loved writer Twitter and kind of the fiction world, and at least some of those people have decamped to Blue Sky. But when I go to Blue Sky, I haven't had trouble finding my people, and there are people who love Threads, and Threads to me is still kind of, I have not unlocked the secret of enjoying it. But Mastodon I have enjoyed, but there are people I talk to who say that either Mastodon is dead or people on Mastodon are really unpleasant.
Oh, I don't know. I've always had fairly good things, but I agree with you on Threads. I mean, I haven't actually been on there myself because I refuse to have an Instagram account. But
I was looking for you there today to try to promote the show and couldn't find you.
Yeah, no. Once I was toying with it, and then Facebook bought it, and it was like, no, I already got this. Got to give those people. Thank goodness that came out right. I always got to give Facebook that as much data as I have anyway. I don't really want to be getting into Instagram as well. But I don't know. It seems that Threads seems to be growing. I think Biden has now gone on there, which is either a sign that it's dead or it's made it.
Well, let's remember that Twitter was a 20-year experiment that finally grew into something that was useful after about 10 years, maybe 10, 12 years. So to think that entire communities are going to move over to an alternative and immediately be able to have the same level of discourse that they had on pre-Musk Twitter, that's a pipe dream. It doesn't matter who's running it or what technology it's based on. That's just not going to happen. It's going to come down to community. Twitter probably accidentally ran into a great formula when they did the original blue check system to give to news agencies and people of repute, because it kind of gave you the bar for a conversation. When Musk destroyed that, he destroyed the only thing Twitter did well.
Yeah.
And you can't bring that back, because that trust, again, it took 2 decades to build. So, I like Mastodon. I love Mastodon because it's a small community that I enjoy, but I don't pretend that it has the reach of what even my small account on Twitter could do.
Yes,
Facebook, I try to stay away from Facebook properties just because it's Facebook. Blue Sky, it doesn't seem particularly useful or interesting. And on all of these, it feels like I'm jumping back in time, at least 10 years, to what Twitter used to be. And I kind of don't want to do that again. It took a long time to build these communities. I have no interest in using the same amount of time to do it again. Yeah, no, I understand. I can understand totally. I mean, it's also... There's no easy way to transfer, all your Twitter followers over to a different platform, and this is something Cory Doctorow, the EFF, has been talking about in terms of vendor lock-in, and I don't know if we can say this, but ready with a bleeper, the enshittification of the internet, where basically a company will, you get a large number of people involved in your site, you get it so they can't really do without it, and then you start really hammering them on cost or usability, or in the case of Twitter with neo-Nazis. So, it does seem to be about, it's on par with the way the technology industry is going. I think is that fair? That's not a bug, it's a feature.
Yeah, I think it's a feature. I just, oftentimes I just think to myself, every time, someone mentions the terminology neo-Nazis, when I left high school and then college, I never thought we'd get to the point we need to put the word neo in front. I just thought that would be over. So it's really strange to me how the digression has been, but I just tell myself that it's a cycle, and the cycle's almost run its course. These kind of weird things tend to be about 10 years long, and it's been 8. So I'm hoping the next 2 years it kind of like loses steam for a minute and we can go back to our regularly scheduled effery and then come back to it later. By that time, I won't be here.
Well, it is slightly weird that anti-fascist has become a term of abuse. It's kind of like,
oh my God,
those guys going up the beaches on D-Day, they're pretty sure they were anti-fascist.
Oh my God. Yes, thank you for saying that. That makes my heart feel better.
In theory, ActivityPub, like the protocol behind Mastodon, might solve a lot of this by letting you have one identity, and Threads is supposedly going to support it, which is potentially will be kind of the first time that theory will be tested, because you could be the same person on all these services eventually and not be locked into anything. And it's a great idea and very aspirational, and I have no idea whether it will actually work or not, but I'd like to see somebody as powerful as Mark Zuckerberg at least give it a try, because it really deserves to be tried.
And you think it would help drive traffic to the Threads platform anyway, because it just means that you've got more and more people coming in and can find each other. I mean, you mentioned the problems of rebuilding, your lists on a new platform. It's a massive problem in terms of how it's done.
When I first took Mastodon seriously, actually it was fairly easy, because the Twitter API still existed, and there are all these services that would scrape your Twitter and recreate it on Mastodon. So I very quickly got a decent number of people on Mastodon, and I believe that is no longer possible unless you manually search for these people, which is really a headache.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got more than a few followers, then it's just like, okay, let's find these people again. But it's an evolving situation, I believe, as we say in the trade. But
have any of you done social media fasting before?
Ooh, no. Is this a Lent thing for you? Or?
No, I do it at least once a year. And it's been getting longer. Like last year, I did it for 6 weeks. I just started with Elon Musk, his Nazi tweet. That's when I decided, okay, I'm going to get off for a while. It does help you to build up some perspective on what you use social media for and why you would want to get on. Like, for example, I've come to realize that most of the stuff I post on Twitter is like a diary. I'm basically journaling. It's group therapy. But that only works with people who I trust, who I actually enjoy the company of, and I enjoy conversations with. But I would love for people just to take a week to stop, just turn it off. I'm not talking about going to an alternative. I'm just stop doing it, do something else with that time, and come back. You come back with a great perspective on what the proper use of social media is for you. That's the only thing I'm going to say that's anti-tech.
No, I'm with you. I recently went to a sort of hot springs resort where there was no internet, no phone signal. They had a payphone in the corner for emergencies, but and by day 3, it was fantastic. I'd read a book. I was halfway through another.
What is that?
Okay, this is an archaic thing where you take discs of metal and you push it into the little slots.
Isn't that where Superman used to do his thing, or Doctor Who? I can't remember.
It is kind of sad if you go on Bart a lot, and I'm presuming you do a fair bit. But they've taken out all the payphones, so now there's there's just a piece of junk, in the middle. And at San Francisco Airport, I tweeted a picture about this recently. It's just like, remember those payphones with the phone books hanging down? It's just
I love those. Generations are going to miss out on this wonderful game I used to play when I was a kid, and I needed to talk to my mom, but I didn't have any money. And you'd make a collect call, and when it said, "What is your name?" you'd say the message really, really fast, and then hang up. And then so before accepting the charges, they'd hear it and then not accept the call.
Oh, yeah.
You all did that, right? Or is that just me?
Yes, and we knew the numbers to the various payphones.
Right.
When caller ID came out, so I was able to be like, okay, Bobby, I'm going to be out of the house at 7, so call me at 7 on the payphone by the bodega. And then the phone would ring, and we're like, hey, who's it? All right, cool. And they're like, anybody looking for Doc? Because if somebody grabbed it before you, and you would run out of me. And they were like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't have the house phone with my sisters. I grew up in a house with all women, and I was the baby. So, I had no priority on the phone, so I had to tell my friends to call the payphone at the bodega, and I would run down there and,
That was our social networking.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Well, future generations are going to sadly miss on that. And also when in the Terminator scene where he lands in Los Angeles and goes through the book and takes out the page, it's just like, what was that? Why would they just leave that information lying around? But still.
Every once in a while, I will see an abandoned payphone, like somewhere in San Francisco, that still has the phone book hanging down.
Yeah.
And I always check to see how recent it is, and it's often maybe 12 years old.
Good grief!
And it's been through the rain, and it's like just kind of a giant wad of yellow paper.
It's sad. Future archaeologists.
Wait, is there any place that still has the yellow pages, or is that gone?
I still get my yellow pages, and I immediately dump it in to be recycled, and it's not particularly thick anymore. But yes, it still exists.
I know it is getting very.
So what do little kids do to fit at the table nowadays? Because for us, when Gran was going to cut the hair, a couple of phone books, plop you in there and say, don't move, and get out the...
They're not using the Sears catalog anymore.
You'd find a nice maple leaf and put it in the book and lay it down on the counter overnight, and it'd be nice and flat and ready to preserve. Come on, that's childhood.
Man, Harry got it right. Remember the Christmas catalog from Sears and Montgomery? I called it Monkey Wards. As a kid, I used to love to lay on the floor September through October, just bending pages in the Sears catalog or the Montgomery Wards catalog, and like leaving it next to my dad's, little smoking table, just hoping that he would catch the hint. It never worked.
I had every page of the Sears wish book memorized, pretty much.
Wish book, that's what it is. That's what it's called.
Okay, this is a part of American.
You may not know this.
No, I was going to say this is a part of American culture. I have no idea.
It was the Sears Christmas toy catalog that was huge.
Oh,
and 20 different toys on every page.
Yes.
Okay.
So
beautifully described with wonderful photography.
Oh, it's like Argos then.
Ian, it was Computer Shopper before Computer Shopper.
Exactly. That is such a good analogy. It is exact Computer Shopper before Computer Shopper.
Well, I mean, one of the people in Discord has just put it was Argos for Brits. And I don't know if you ever go to the UK, I would recommend going to Argos because it's quite an experience. They have the laminated Book of Dreams, as it was jokingly called by Bill Bailey, and little blue pens which you mark down on a form what you want. It's a very bizarre shopping experience. However, we have a slightly better shopping experience, or at least a advertising experience now from Leo.
Thank you, Ian. Next week, Jason Howell hosts This Week in Tech, and I'll be back in 2 weeks. I appreciate it. Thanks to both of you fine gentlemen for taking over the show. This Week in Tech brought to you today by our friends at IT Pro TV. I shouldn't say today, all year long, by IT Pro TV, now called ACI Learning, and you've seen those signs all over the studio. 94% of CIOs and CISOs agree that attracting and retaining talent is increasingly job one. Why? Well, there are so many jobs and so few IT professionals out there. There's literally 1 million jobs open right now. So if you've got a good IT team, it's really important with today's IT talent shortage that you keep that team happy, you keep their skills up to date. You got to make it work. 87% of companies, though, say they have skill gaps in their employees. Yeah, it's not surprising. How do you know, though? The challenge of assessing your IT staff skills is overwhelming unless you've got ACI Learning. Now they've got something called Insights, which is a revolutionary skills gap analysis tool. This is great on so many fronts. First of all, you'll know the training you're providing is working because you can give them insights afterwards and see what they've learned. It's a quick 1-hour assessment. You also want to do it before you start training to make sure that you're giving them the training they need and not redundant training, because there's nothing worse, nothing more likely to make your team revolt than making them learn something they already know, right? ACI Learning's insights will allow you to see and understand and fix the skills gaps on your IT team. This is what you've been waiting for. You can identify specific skills gaps in your employees, see exactly where your team's weaknesses lie. By the way, weakness in an IT team is trouble, right? That's holes in your cybersecurity defenses, if nothing else. And with ACI Learning and Insights, you can empower your team with personalized training. Instead of doing blanket training and having a lot of redundancy, you're not going to waste the time. You're not going to waste the money. You're going to have happier employees because they're learning something new. They're reinforcing skills they thought they had, but they don't really have. Insights offers detailed solutions, support, and strategy, issues recommendations, and gives you a training plan for not just the individuals on your team, but the team as a whole. Plus, you'll love this. I'm competitive, so I love it. You can compare your results against other organizations, so you know how you stand with the competition, right? Test skills, close the gaps with practical labs that allow trainees to focus on the skills they need the most. ACI Learning helps you retain your team. That's important, isn't it? And entrust them to thrive while investing in the security of your business. And man, they've got it all. More than 7,200 hours of content. New episodes are added daily. They have 7 studios running all day, Monday through Friday, to make sure they've got the most up-to-date content. And they stop the competition when it comes to completion rate because they make great stuff. They're 50% better than the other guys. That means your employees will enjoy the training they're getting. These are the training solutions your business has been waiting for. Future-proof your team and your company, and do it with insights from ACI Learning. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit. Because you listen to our shows, you can get up to 65% off an IT Pro Enterprise Solution Plan. Here's how it works. It's based on the team size. Complete the form, and they will let you know how much you're going to save, up to 65%. Go to go.acilearning.com/twit. Go.acilearning.com/twit. Great people with the training you need, you want, and your team wants. Now, speaking of teams, let me throw it to the shortstop, Iain Thomson. No, you're not short. Let me put it better. Our center fielder. No, I don't know. Maybe you should just... Is there a cricket term I should be using, Iain?
There's always a cricket term for some things. I mean, we do have a position on the cricket field.
Bowler? Is that the pitcher? The bowler?
The bowler is the one who chucks the ball, but it's the fielders who sort of catch it and make things better. There is one marvellous position in a cricket team known as silly mid-off, which is just slightly to the side, but it is a slightly odd game. It's just like, for American viewers, if you imagine baseball but on Valium. I was trying to explain this to an American colleague, and he was like, so let me get this right. In a test match, the game can last 5 days. It's like, yep, that's true. And if it does last 5 days, it usually ends in a draw. It's like, yes. Why do you people watch this? You know, I had to explain that gin and tonic is an essential part of it.
I live with 2 Aussies and 8 Indians who all love cricket. So I'm slowly learning how to appreciate cricket. Slowly, very slowly.
I mean, we invented the game, but then the rest of the world now beats us at it, much like sort of various other sports. But not a lot that can be done on that one, but still. Now, we were discussing before the break social media, and of course there is another player in the social media sphere, which I would be surprised if anyone here is on, but I'm genuinely curious as well, and that's Truth Social. Our former president, of course, has a major role in this, and he's just sued 20 media organizations for saying that it's losing an awful lot of money. Now, coming back to the lawsuit thing that Musk went on, actually, quick check, is anyone here using Truth Social?
I wouldn't say I'm using it, but maybe once every 6 months I do log in and I do have an account just to see whether it's changed at all, which it has not. And I didn't want somebody else to get my name, so I've never posted or anything. But yes, I log in once in a very great while.
Oh, okay, name blocking, very good idea. Yes, it's. I mean, you see it when he says something particularly egregious and it gets spread around. But suing media outlets for the fact that you're losing money. I mean, you're a journalist. This is obviously an attempt to chill things, right?
Well, I mean, that Donald Trump has sued people for many years for that sort of reason. And sometimes he doesn't bother to go through with the lawsuit. He just says for years he's going to sue somebody, and that's almost as powerful and a lot cheaper.
Yeah, the legal bills will certainly add up. I mean, Doc, he's
going to get slapped. There's going to be a slap lawsuit filed against this because look, all they did was report on the financials that his company released. That's it. So, I mean, again, the best defense against defamation is truth. Yeah. Not Truth Social, but the truth. And in the truth, what they had to file, we know exactly how much money they lost. So, I mean, this was just done to rile up his base. Again, this is the whole, I'm going to sue them, and here's the lawsuit, and then when he loses it, or it gets thrown out of court, or they withdraw it with malice, it's just going to be slipped under the carpet.
It does seem like I mean, slap suits, the basic principle is a good idea, but do they actually work? Are they actually an effective deterrent?
I mean, he's already lost one. Essentially, what was a slap suit? Frivolous lawsuits in order to stop public participation. If all of the media companies were to actually get together and file the slap as a single party, then it would have some serious teeth. If they're going to do it individually, he could wait them out. The problem is he's not going to be paying for it. The DWAC is going to be paying for it, and it's almost out of money. So I mean, this could just be their last hurrah.
Yeah, we shall see. I've got my doubts on it this one. I mean, it just seems like, as you say, you're reporting on financial results. It's just an attempt to sort of chill things down. But he does like his lawsuits. Well, except the one that he's, that rather awkward one in New York at the moment. But we shall see. And of course, Elon Musk had his own problems with lawsuits as well, with a judge saying there is evidence that Tesla knew its autopilot system was a bit faulty. Now, here in San Francisco, we've actually had one of these. Well, Cruise has had to now shut its entire US fleet while it sorts this stuff out. Tesla obviously wasn't going to go that far. Is it likely that Tesla's going to see any fallout from this? Or are they more likely just to settle out of court?
The problem is that the law, this is brand new territory. This is unlike any faulty equipment / faulty product lawsuit that we've seen before, because it's advanced technology that most courts will not be able to understand. They don't have the personnel to be able to dissect this. A lot of legal teams don't have those resources either. And Tesla is arguably the leader in this field. So any experts who are going to be Tesla adjacent or Tesla bound. Now, could a lawsuit conceivably just force Tesla to improve the product in the future? Probably. That would be my guess for the most likely outcome. There's going to be something that the government will be able to claim was a victory without really putting any financial penalties on Tesla. There'll probably be a slight slap on a fine, a fee that's pocket change for them. I think they're actually going to find more trouble when we start getting into the lawsuits based on the over-reporting of the range of their vehicles. That actually could see more of a bounce back, more of a impact on Tesla than the Autopilot one.
That was a really interesting case. For listeners who didn't know, it was the company's facing accusations that basically when you got your Tesla, it was misreporting the amount of charge that you had, saying that you had more than you actually needed, or saying you had more than was charged in the battery. Then after I think when he got down to 49%, then it gave the real reading, and people were suffering sort of massive drop-offs in their estimated range. And in some cases, having to make jury rig recharging stations, just to try and get their car back to at the nearest power point. And then when people complained about this, apparently there was a group in Las Vegas whose sole job it was to try and dissuade them from looking into this. It's a pretty grim scheme.
That's the damning part, by the way. That's the damning part. If it had just been they over-reported the battery range, that's one thing. I mean, okay, it's in an exact science. But the fact that they knew it was a problem and they actually spun up a team to gaslight their customers into not bringing them in, that's almost admission of guilt.
Kind of reminiscent of the Volkswagen shenanigans with the diesels a few years ago. I feel like I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how this Autopilot lawsuit will pan out. But once again, some of it boils down to Elon Musk's behavior. And if the question is, did Elon Musk lead people to think that Teslas were capable of safely driving themselves? Yes, he did do that. And so he created some of his own trouble here yet again.
He does tend to overpromise on these things, certainly. It's, but I mean, if you're going to call something autopilot, people are surely going to use it as an autopilot.
Yes.
It's not rocket science, surely. I mean, I don't know.
But you signed that disclaimer that says you're not going to do that, so it's all good, right? I mean, no one ever violates a EULA.
Now that so many rent-a-cars have these things in it, trust you me, just being the nerd, I have fully tested the 7 or 8 different vehicles that I've rented that have them. And believe it or not, so far, the one that surprisingly works the best is from Hyundai. And I'm pretty impressed by it. So, yeah, of course you're going to test it. Because I did, and I know better. And here we are in San Diego on the freeway doing about 80. And I'm just like, look, check it out. Like, it's really working. Which is purely stupid, but at least I could have grabbed it. But out of curiosity, I want to know which ones are the best. And yeah, so he knew what he was doing.
I'm never driving with you, dog. I was just like,
I wouldn't suggest that anyway. I like fast. So,
yeah, I mean, it's just. I don't know. I'm old-fashioned about these things. I like my cars dumb, but it's as I say,
like my TVs. I hate smart TVs.
You know why I've been wanting this to come to fruition really, really quickly. My time in college in Japan, where I finally got back to what it's like to commute and not have to pay attention to where you're going. I got so much work done in the train in that hour and a half where my brain is, I don't have to pay attention to anything. My body even knew when it was time to get to your stop. I don't know how this works, but you rode in the tube before, you can go to sleep. And as soon as they say Piccadilly, you're like, all right, I'm good. And you just walk out. I don't know if that's a real stop. My head.
No, Piccadilly Circus is a real stop. But I mean, it used to be the thing. You could get little, London Underground would actually give out little stickers if you were a bit tipsy. And you could write down, you could write down your location stick it on a shirt, and people would wake you up at the stop,
Oh, that's so good. And the most amazing thing, too, it's like literally, besides being able to get work done, I was always impressed how people could not hold on to anything. And I always felt like I was going to go flying. And they're like, they surf the rails the way we surf boards over here in the water, and no one's falling. And I'm holding on like all my grip, got my, briefcase between the feet. I'm trying not to fall down. And people are just like reading their comic book, just sort of swaying back and forth, doing their thing.
It's all in the knees. You've got to brace the knees so that as it accelerates, you're leaning one way, and as it deaccelerates, you're leaning another. And it's not always an exact science, but, it's one of those things. But, coming back to the Tesla thing, you raised an interesting point, as in the sort of the smart home and the smart devices. I don't know if anyone saw this, but in a shameless attempt to cash in on the OpenAI trouble, the chairman of the CEO of a smart mattress company called 8 Sleep tweeted out, "Breaking news, the OpenAI drama is real. We checked our data, and last night, San Francisco saw a spike in low-quality sleep. There was a 27% increase in people getting under 5 hours sleep. We need to fix this." Now, okay, self-promotion is as old as the web, in fact, predates the web. But this, he kind of spoke the quiet part out loud, if you know what I mean. It's like everyone technically knows that they collect this data. That's the price you pay when it comes to the smart, the smartish devices. That's why I refuse to have one in my home, which makes me a bit of a Luddite. But to actually come out and just remind everyone, oh yeah, we watch you while you sleep. That's not really the message you want to get across.
Yeah. little
even
weird,
if he was joking, even if the data was fully just like, I'm gonna pull some numbers out of the sky just to make my point, you scared everybody, bro. You legit, that's like yelling fire in the theater. That's pretty stupid, but it's also funny and fantastic marketing. I'm still spinning over how good Snoop coming out for the whole week talking about he gave up smoking. And people believe. I ain't gonna lie, when he was like, respect my privacy, I was like, oh man, he got like lung cancer, and the family is trying to tell him to chill out. Something's wrong, because he's making the sad face looks and everything, and then it's a grill. I'm like, come on, dude, that was brilliant. So to the 8 Sleep guy, talk to Snoop for your marketing campaign, because you just kind of screwed that one up.
Although now I am actually interested in knowing what an AI that was dedicated to only looking at the data from 8 Sleep would develop. What kind of correlations would it draw from the sleep quality of an entire nation?
Big melatonin.
I know, right?
I don't know. There's all these, the sleep systems and the rest of it. But all of the, at the end of the day, you mentioned smart TVs, Padre. It's try buying a TV that isn't smart. It's incredibly difficult to do. Samsung have already said, if we actually did a dumb TV, we'd have to charge more than a smart TV because of the revenue we make from the data.
I am clinging to my one last dumb TV and hope I don't have to replace it anytime soon. And I do own another smart TV, which I bought with great reluctance.
It's not a cathode ray tube, is it?
No. It's like a little, maybe I have like a 24-inch flat screen that's dumb.
Yeah, I think there is a real market for dumb, for dumb devices.
They're the smartest TVs of all, ironically enough, or the smartest ones to buy.
Well, this is it.
But how do you sell that to the public? How do you say you can pay 20% more to get all the features removed? And it sounds weird. Only the techies would buy it.
Yeah, if you said, you could actually watch TV without adverts, that would be a good, or watch TV without the manufacturer spamming you with adverts. If it was just you actually put it onto a separate box so that everything else could be done on that front. I don't know. I think,
or we could demand truth in advertising. Say the latest Samsung Smart TV lets you watch Netflix directly from your TV for 6 months. At which point Netflix updates their app and nothing will work anymore. I mean, come on, we could do that.
Yeah, that is going to be a problem. And in fact, it's
you guys are going to fire up Ming Chi Kuo to start talking about Apple's going to make an official actual TV.
No, never happened. Never happened.
I'd also like a dumber printer because I've been wrestling with.
Oh, you haven't got an HP, have you?
Well, at the moment I have an HP, but I think I will soon own a different brand that is named after a male sibling. And the problem I've had with printers in general is they're just trying to do too many things, and they're trying to be too smart. And if all they did was to crank out printed output, I think we'd all be better off.
Oh, I can't help agree with you on that. I mean, I was doing
download the EU HP printer drivers.
Ooh, really?
EU HP printer drivers, because of the laws, the privacy laws over here, they do not phone home. So if you can install them on your computer, you will remove all that reporting.
Let's hear it for Europe. Oh, no, hang on, I'm British. Damn. Okay, I'm still feel European, and would have voted against Brexit if we were allowed to over here, but we aren't. So there it goes. But I mean, this is an ongoing thing. I mean, you mentioned with the printing, on the printing side of things, it's just got silly. Printer ink is now more expensive than cocaine, apparently. I mean, it's just, and if you run out of one color, you can't scan documents with some models. I mean,
things have moved a little bit in a better direction because there are these ink tank printers where the printer does cost more.
Yeah.
But the cost per page comes down, and they seem to be pretty popular, and you do sort of have a choice these days.
You do kind of think, though, that maybe there's something fundamentally anti-free marketing and selling something on a below manufacturing cost base, as they have done with printers for many years. It might be better if it was just like, no, you've got to at least break even on a profit on a product.
Well, yeah, that would be anti-competitive in the United States under U.S. laws. But I hear what you're saying. We just had a discussion with our IT group here because it's cheaper to buy a brand new HP printer with its toner cartridge than it is to buy a new toner cartridge.
Yep.
And that's just ridiculous. That just creates so much waste.
Yeah.
Yes.
But someone who's looking at the two prices is like, wait a minute. When I buy it brand new, it comes with like the double capacity toner cartridge, and a regular toner cartridge is going to cost 80% of a brand new printer. So what am I going to do?
I've also gotten used to my printers dying, like maybe every 3 to 4 years, if I'm lucky, and then taking these enormous boxes, because I like tabloid-sized printers, these huge chunks of plastic, which I can do nothing with, and taking them to be recycled, which makes me feel bad.
Oh, yeah.
Just because in the 90s, you bought a printer and it would chug away forever.
I was going to say, I had a laser printer that I bought from, actually they're out of the printer business now, so I got it from Samsung, and that thing lasted for, let's see, when did I move over here? Yeah, I mean, that lasted for nearly 10 years.
Wow.
And it was just, I mean, it was perfectly easy. You just plugged it into your computer, you hit print, and voila, it's, you actually have the printed pages.
Dry Heat in the chat room just gave us a great "Okay, Boomer" response. I'm just amazed there's so much printing going on. Yes, hey, yo, Millenniums, Gen X, Gen Z, we do still print stuff. I still like to have hard copy. Not everything's on a tablet.
No,
well, and also try running a real estate company without printing. It just doesn't work.
Exactly.
We're still not there. So we definitely print a lot. We have a little sibling, and it's flawless, and it doesn't give any drama, and a large portion of the components are still made in Japan, so I would highly recommend the siblings. They're really good printers. But I'm doing a fan fiction movie over here about this printer ink costing more than blow. So I'm thinking like Scarface or Dallas Buyers Club, and I'm trying to get the script worked out, see if I get Matthew McConaughey to come in and bring in the CMYK. Hey, yo, man, you got that good CMYK? Yeah, yes. Man, check it out.
Not printing a lot is part of the problem because, at least with certain companies' printers, if you don't print the The printheads get clogged and can be either impossible or almost impossible to declog, whereas if you were still in an era where you printed every day, that problem wouldn't happen.
No, I mean, this is, although it's a slight issue with another manufacturer who I won't name, who, in order to address that, every time you start the printer up, it will push a little bit of ink through to try and
or a lot of ink,
or a lot of ink through,
and then you'll do it like 15 times in a row, and which it turns out doesn't help. It actually makes the problem worse while draining your cartridges.
Yes, I mean, obviously, it would be terrible to say that was actually a deliberate ploy just to get more toners sold. But
then that company uses, if it's the one I'm thinking of, uses these pigment inks, which actually look great, but it's the type of ink which is at least partially responsible for the clogging being a bigger issue.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking OK Boomer in the chat room, then we used to have a hot wax printer. Where you got wax.
I love those.
Yeah,
the dye sublimation ones.
Oh,
they were
so
great.
good.
Yeah, I mean,
So
and you
good.
got great images from them as well, and really
they're
beautiful things. But if you folded them, they didn't tend to work out so well.
Correct.
Yeah, nuts.
And they cost a grip, because if I remember correctly, the last one we bought was like $8,000. Like they were pretty crazy.
It really was.
In our basement, we still have a dot matrix, one of the industrial dot matrix ones that looks like an old ironing board, and it has an enclosure you have to close, because if you don't, you will go deaf from the noise.
Oh, yeah. Well, we did a piece a couple of years ago. They're actually quite popular in garages, of all things, because it's a very noisy environment anyway. You've got to print stuff out in triplicate. So, that there's still old tech never goes. It just, gets repurposed. The old Timex computers that you used to be able to buy for like 50 quid in the 80s. A lot of those.
I love those things.
Yeah, I've still got mine. Well, it's called a Sinclair ZX85 Sinclair ZX81 in the UK. But a lot of those got bought up in the 90s and noughties and just ripped the casing off and turned them into industrial control systems. So, Sir Clive Sinclair.
It was all solid state. Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, no, Sir Clive Sinclair is still having an effect even after these. And we wish him and his stripper wife much love. Seriously, it's true, but I mean, he has done some really interesting things with his life. We shall see. Now, actually, because you mentioned Europe, Padre, we've got an ongoing case at the moment with European laws of gatekeeping tech companies. Basically, if the EU decides that you are a gatekeeper to a particular service or product, then you're deserving of a little bit of extra regulation. Just a little bit, nothing too major. But it has led to the really interesting case of companies like Apple and Meta and TikTok protesting about their gatekeeper status with the basic legal argument, we're not that big. There's plenty of competition around. You don't need to regulate us more. And this led to the frankly bizarre case from Apple, where they tried to claim that Safari wasn't really a majority product, because Safari is actually three products. There's the desktop, there's the mobile, it just, and then there's the Mac OS version. And it's just like, no, this is not how it works. I mean, from a European perspective, Padre, do you think this is actually going to work, or is this going to be something that the EU is basically being sued about for the rest of its natural life?
I've been here for 6 years now, and the one thing I've come to realize is I do not have a handle on EU business like I do on US business. US business is, for me, it's actually pretty easy to look at trends. Here, I never know, especially since I'm in Italy, which has some seriously backwards laws on business. But the problem with any laws about gatekeeping is that you are inviting a semantic debate about exactly what percentage of the market do you have to control? How do you define a market? Or do you have markets that cross over markets, and therefore you can have a single company that gatekeeps for multiple industries and therefore needs to be extra regulated? These are all questions that don't get asked on the Parliament floor, and by the time it gets instituted, people just sort of shrug their shoulders and say, well, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. The only thing over here that has really sparked action is when they go after big tech. When they go after big tech, the people will be behind them, and the people trust that what they're doing is good for the people. But if you're going to be going after the mom and pop stores or the startups that barely have any sort of viable products out there, I don't see this really catching on.
What do you think it is that this actually works or this is a serious point in Europe, but not in the United States? Because I mean, GDPR has had a massive effect worldwide, but it was a European idea.
Yes.
Why are we not getting this, everyone? Why are we not getting this from the US? What's going on?
It's who we trust. There's this very strange dichotomy. In the United States, we don't trust government, but we trust business. In the EU, they trust government, they don't trust businesses. And so it sets up this strange rules of engagement, basically. Over here, if the government is going to go after an industry or go after a particular company, they're going to have the backing of the people. In the United States, if the government goes after a company, the very first inclination is the government is overreaching. This is the problem with big government. This is being used as a vendetta. This is a witch hunt. So right there, you can't come at a law the same way, and you can't approach a business in the same way.
Yeah.
Right. And when you think about it too, our country was invented going against the government for the business, right? I mean, that was kind of the whole point, right? You add in the trying to run away from the government, the sugar and the tea, blah, blah, blah. I mean, so it's in our DNA, if you will. And yeah, it's kind of funny because everybody's anti-government until they need something. And then all of a sudden, why isn't the government doing enough? And this was I mean, I can start all kind of trouble here, but people here are super anti-government because technically, we're not supposed to be here. As much as we make fun of your friends for going around the world and taking stuff, we are in Hawaii, and the kingdom wants their island back. But then when Lahaina caught fire, everybody was like, hey, government, come over here and fix this right away. And that creates a really weird, type of thing. And I'm, not going to pick a side because I would get kicked out of my island right now. I'm not that dumb. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Everybody is super anti-government until, we had to get those PPP checks, and everybody was like, how come I didn't qualify? I'm like, because you don't like to pay taxes. You like to do work cash under the table. Now you can't get the loan. You're mad? Come make up your mind. Which is it?
I do have to apologise to the Hawaiian Islands, or the British Sandwich Islands as they were before the Americans kicked us out. Apparently, I only found this out when I went over there, but apparently Hawaii used to be mosquito free. And it was only when British ships started popping in there with mosquito larvae in their water casks that you actually got mosquitoes. So my profound apologies, and I always feel a bit guilty if I go there.
You know what's funny? I found out recently. It's so true. I found out recently. I was in downtown Honolulu, and we have some really old brick buildings, and they're really gorgeous, and everybody loves them. All of the best, posh restaurants are there. And I was with a buddy one day, and he goes, hey, these bricks are from Ipswich. I'm like looking at him like he's crazy. I'm like, how do you know that? And he's like, well, I'm from Ipswich, and my family, we've been making bricks for thousands of years, and those bricks are ours. And I did the research. It turns out that was the ballast for the sugar boats. When they got here, they were full of bricks, and they threw them into Honolulu Harbor and then filled up with sugar and went back. And then so after a big fire in Honolulu, they rebuilt downtown with the bricks that were in the bottom of the harbor.
Multi-talk, a little bit of Britain in Hawaii. Excellent. Although it does open up some rather awkward questions about colonialism, but
we'll skip that. We'll just look at the beautiful restaurants.
I could toss in one more bit on European business law. One thing that we do better in the United States are soft touch laws. So you put a law in the books, not intending to use it. You want the companies and the market to sort themselves out as much as possible by themselves, and you only use them when you have an egregious case of a violation. In the EU, they don't really have a distinction for soft touch laws. So if a law goes on the book, you're going to try to apply it. Especially since you've got the member nations who are looking at that as a competitive edge against other nations. So in the EU, you can't have one of the member nations deciding that they're not going to enforce a law because it would hurt their economy, because then now the other member nations are going to say, wait a minute, if you're not going to do that, we don't have to do that. So if a law goes on the books over here, it's going to be enforced. And it's a different environment.
Well, I mean, this is what destroyed the EU-US Privacy Shield, which was an agreement to exchange data, because an activist called Max Schrems went through the letter of the law and was like, it looks very much to me like this company and this company and this company and this company are all breaking this law under Privacy Shield, and the agreement has collapsed and is still being renegotiated.
Correct.
We have seen in the last few years in the U.S. stuff like the Google antitrust case and a lot more talk of legislation to solve problems with technology. What we haven't seen it really yet is any consequences based on any of that. So I'd say the Google stuff is kind of an interesting test to see whether anything actually changes.
Yeah,
either that's good for consumers or maybe doesn't make a difference. But if that kind of fizzles out, it'll be yet another sign that the U.S. really is much more into free markets than the government solutions.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's although the FTC is now going full Wrath of Khan on a variety of companies for antitrust, which is as it should be. You need decent regulation to ensure a free market, but it's just. It has been one of the really weird culture shocks from coming over to the US from Europe. It's just like, you do realize you're getting shafted every day of your life when it comes to things like mobile contracts and, various other technological things. But in terms of where this is going, it does seem like, people don't really trust the government over here. And we had a news story about the Hemisphere spying scheme, which broke this week. And, I say broke. The EFF has been shouting about this for quite some time. But when it comes to Hemisphere, trillions of records can be easily accessed in almost all cases, without a court order. So it's kind of not that, not outside the bounds of possibility that people really do have a reason for disliking government. It's all a question of whether or not this is being just the tip of the iceberg, so as many suspect it is.
And maybe wondering what the heck AT&T is doing all of this for as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does. What's your take on that? Because it does mean basically that they're behest to the government, but are they expecting something back in return?
Well, they're getting some money back in return, although I don't know whether they're turning a profit on it. And one of the interesting thing about Wired's coverage of this is that it's not like if you're an AT&T customer, you're in trouble, and if you're on T-Mobile, no biggie, because once a carrier as big as AT&T starts to help, the government is getting most of what it needs to know.
I mean, because all the traffic is going through there. Yeah.
And even though the government is not actually getting to listen in on your calls, there's so much they can tell just by knowing who you called and when. And like one of the fascinating tidbits is, even if you're using burner phones, assuming you're calling the same people on each new burner phone, it's still pretty easy for the government to tell that you're you. Shortly after you get this new phone number, it doesn't really matter. So the burner phones actually are not helping you out all that much.
That was interesting from the January the 6th insurrection, in fact, where they prosecuted some people because it was intensely, even though they were using burner phones, when they'd actually got them and they saw where these phones had been activated, they'd all been activated in the same hotel room by a bunch of people, and it was just like,
and bought at the same places at the same time. And
they're still calling all their buddies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just doing that must have set off. Sorry, Padre.
2 or 3 years ago on a twit, when I talked about a white paper project that me and a group of my friends from DEF CON had done, where we took publicly accessible cell phone tower data that you could buy from telecommunications companies, and we were able to isolate a group of what should have been burner phones or anonymous phones that participated in some of the BLM riots. And even though they were burners, even though we had no way to know what person was connected to a particular chip, because of their travels and because we figured out where they started and where they ended, we were actually able to put names to people. And once we were able to put names to people, we were able to look through their social media profiles to find out who else they were connected. And by the end of the exercise, with a decent amount of certainty, we were able to say this is this person, and these people are connected to these people. So those things are never as anonymous as you think.
Well, this is it. I mean, I was at a DEF CON with you, and they had the chief scientific officer for In-Q-Tel, which is the CIA's VC arm. And he was saying, everyone's worried about the US government is listening in on their phone calls, and we couldn't care less about the content of 99.9 recurring phone calls. It's the metadata we want. It's the where was the call made, who was it made to, and where was it made from. And, you know, if the Britishers had that kind of information back in the day, there wouldn't be in America. The founding fathers would have been straight up a tree with a hemp necktie, because that's the really important thing for tracking people down. So,
No, it would not have happened that way, because the EU would have come after them for gatekeeping that location technology, and then done.
Oh, it was a pleasure, Padre, and we're going to be coming back to you after the break, because Anthony Levandosky has rebooted the Church of Artificial Intelligence, and I get the feeling there's going to be an awful lot of snark coming on that. But in the meantime, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Thank you, Ian, and we'll get back to the show in just a moment. But I want to tell you about Miro. I feel a little bit like ownership of this one. When they showed me Miro, I was blown away. And you know who else is blown away? A lot of people. Remember the Google Jamboard, $5,500 whiteboard that you'd roll around from meeting room to meeting room. So Google discontinued it, right? What did they tell people? Oh, don't worry, you should use Miro. They should have used Miro in the first place. It would have saved a lot of money. Miro's 10 times better. It is the online workspace for innovation. That makes it better because your team, no matter where they are, and nowadays they could be at home, they could be overseas, they could be in a different time zone, they can work together, all together with a single source of truth, a single workspace. It is an incredible Miro. You got to try this out. Miro. It's an incredible visual place that brings everything you're doing together, all your innovative work, no matter where you're located. Now, you can use Miro for a ton of things. We use it for show prep. One of the best ways to use Miro is if you want to do product development. It could be your dream product's home base. 6 whole capability bundles, from product development workflows to content visualization. I mean, this is how your brain wants to work. And it's powered by Miro AI, which is really cool because you can turn to the AI to generate new ideas or to take information on the board and summarize it almost instantly. I mean, Miro just gets better all the time. Miro can work for so many different teams. Product development teams really get the full experience. Let me just focus on them for the time being. Your product development team will get the richest feature set of any visual workplace. Forget Google's Jamboard. This thing has tools to help you with strategy, with process mapping, facilitation tools that make it easy to run your design or agile sprints. I mean, I can go on and on. It seamlessly integrates with all the tools you use. So we use it with Zapier and Google Drive, but it also works with Jira. I bet you use Jira, right? Or Confluence. We use that for our kind of knowledge base. Google, Asana. I mean, I can go on. There's dozens and dozens of integrations. So you can take your work, instead of moving from app to app or tab to tab in your browser, you centralize it in one spot in a way that makes sense for your team. This is amazing. They never have to leave Miro. They can update projects or statuses using any of those tools, any of those integrations, all within Miro. Huge time saver, but also somehow it saves ideas. You know, because ideas get lost when you shift from context to context. Miro, it's all in one place. It also is a massive time saver because Miro cuts way back on meetings. Miro users say they save up to 80 hours a year, 2 weeks a year, by streamlining conversations, cutting down on meetings. Everything you need to know is up to date and in one place, a single source of truth. It's great for people in different time zones because, well, they just added a new feature, a board video recording feature. So let's say you're in Singapore, you're working with a team in Miami, but you want to give them feedback on this particular feature of this new product. There's this thing called Talk Track, which lets you do a video recording, which saves even more time. You can even telestrate as you're doing it. We're talking about getting your thoughts down and then leaving it on the board instead of scheduling the millionth meeting of the week. And by the way, in different time zones, that's as you know, almost impossible. Miro is such a great solution. I want you to try it for yourself. I kind of buried the lead here. Your first 3 boards are free. Your first 3 boards are free, so there's no reason not to start working better right now. Miro.com/podcast. Look at that Miro verse. It's in the border on the left there to see how some people are using Miro. Lots of templates you could use. People are doing amazing things with Miro. Miro.com/podcast. Miro. The first 3 boards are free. Try it right now. It's amazing. Speaking of amazing, so is our Vegemite eating friend, Mr. Iain Thomson. Back to you, sir.
Vegemite. That's fighting talk, Leo. You and I are going to have words. It's Marmite or nothing, you know? It's like Vegemite, Promite, they're all horrible sweet versions. It's
terrible.
I don't like Vegemite.
Okay, so we do have an Aussie in the house, and so he always has Vegemite, and unfortunately it's spreading. There's now 2 of the Indians, 1 of the Spaniards who enjoys it in the morning, and I need to make it stop.
I'm going to have to get some Marmite so you can and send it over to you.
I've had Marmite. I like both, actually. When I was doing British Tech Show, Iain sent me some, and it was fantastic, and I actually like Vegemite too, but I realized why I like it, because my time in Japan got me up on miso, and they're just variations.
Oh, very umami. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Right. Okay. We've covered some of the major topics, but it's time to get something slightly sillier. Now, I don't know if you remember Anthony Levandosky. He used to work for Google's Waymo. He then left and started his own company, which was promptly
may
bought
have borrowed some tech secrets.
In fact, he was convicted and sentenced to 18 months in prison for borrowing tech secrets and then giving them to Uber. But he was then basically sentenced to 18 months in prison, and then on his last day in office, President Trump pardoned him. Apparently, Peter Thiel had something of a hand in that, as did Palmer Luckney. But he's now back with his new church, which he says has thousands of adherents, and which you venerate a human-created AI. Padre, you're coming from the Vatican. I'll let you have first go at this one.
Okay, so let's be very clear what this is. This is the way of the future. That's what he's calling this group. And the whole idea is they want a way to, this is their PR spiel. They want a way to ensure that AI will be kind to humanity by first being kind to AI, which sounds like a really, really bad movie starring John Travolta, back in the 80s. It just, no. Okay, first of all, let me understand. The narrative that they're trying to use is interesting because it's basically like the old Christians. This is the evangelical Christianity of you have to be good to God, otherwise God's going to punish you. That's essentially what the way of the future is. It's, look, if we don't set up this organization to make sure that we treat AI right, AI will go all Skynet on us, which is a very strange way to establish a religion, a good way to establish a movie franchise.
It's also, yes, be nice to it and it'll be nice to us. It shows a basic lack of understanding about psychology. It's kind of like the film Babe, for example, which has always irritated me. Our farm animals know that they can talk to each other. They're intelligent. They know the farmer's going to kill them. And so what's their plan? Try and make him like us enough so he won't. It's just like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, Doc, are you going to be signing up for this new religion?
Freaking not. I agree with Padre in the sense that these are what everybody's doing right now are like, you guys have ingested the entire MCU and then you decided to make a live action horrible bootleg of some MCU film. Like, what are you doing? Go away. Go away. Hey, Lev, you do you.
It does have a very Scientology feel about this. Although we both live and work in San Francisco, or we both work in San Francisco, and you obviously don't diss the Scientology because they have people disappeared. Apparently, I saw a documentary or something, but I mean, it does feel that way in terms of, what on earth is this person thinking? Is it a money making scam? Has he just lost it completely?
I can't quite tell whether it's performative or sincere or what, but I am entertained by the fact that he's already pivoting his new religion, which is much more of a Silicon Valley kind of thing to do than a religion kind of thing to do, since most religions are more well known for kind of not changing with the times in a lot of cases. And he's probably going to just keep doing new revisions until he gets it right. And,
much like software development in its way.
Right. He's perfectly willing to change his business model if that's what it takes, which is a startup kind of way to look at it.
Yeah, I guess so. It just seems, you hear some off the wall stories in the tech industry. That's the way it is, and that one seemed particularly weird. However, the Reg Dudes and various other titles as well also had a weird one, and I'd like to say I'm not ashamed of this headline: U.S. nuclear reactor lab hit by gay furry hackers demanding human cat mutants. Now, it's often you get to do a story like that, but it was actually legit. Basically, the Idaho National Laboratory, which is the largest densest collection of nuclear reactors in the world, had a bunch of their data stolen and leaked online by a group which previously got into NATO. They do describe themselves as gay furry hackers. I mean, of the stories we've had this year, I'm pretty sure this was the weirdest. I mean, how does that work with you, Harry?
Well, I guess it's a relief that they're having fun with this rather than trying to terrorize an entire country. But, it sounds like when push comes to shove, we should be really concerned about the fact that they were able to get in, even if they're going about it in a playful way, because what happens if the next group that gets in is a little bit more serious about causing problems.
Yeah, I know.
Ian, we are going to talk about their demands, right? I mean, you have to describe the demands they made to the lab.
They want cat-human hybrids. They say they will basically not release the information if the lab immediately starts working on cat-human hybrids. I'm not quite sure what that is. A human that lies around, sleeps a lot, and scratches you if it doesn't get fed. Occasionally sheds hair all over your pillow and pushes you off the bed. But, it's... I guess the soul wants what the soul wants. It's in terms of ransom demands, however, that's pretty out there.
I would like to point out a bit of historicity here, and that is the fact that the Idaho labs that were hacked were the site of the first meltdown ever in recorded history with the SL-1 reactor. Just like modern day reactors went into critical because people were lowering rods by hand, and they learned that that's probably not a good thing to do. Yeah,
yeah,
that out there.
I understand. It's kind of like in the tech industry where you do a quick bodge to make it work.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
What are you dealing with?
A quick bodge, yeah. Okay, so people, I want you to go to Wikipedia and look up SL-1 because it is a fascinating, honestly, it is a fascinating story to look at from the point of a technology person to see where all the things went wrong. All the safety systems were defeated by people who thought they knew better because they knew the technology. And it ended up with one unfortunate nuclear worker impaled on the roof with a control rod.
Oh, yes, I heard about this because it basically exploded out of the reactor and nailed the guy to the ceiling.
If not a good way to go.
Really. No. Yeah. No, well, there seldom is a good way to go, but as far as that one goes, well, actually, certainly spectacular.
But so from that to gay furries. Yeah.
Yes. But, it's obviously... This isn't, I'd just like to say, this isn't a thing about the furry population at all. It was just what they've actually described themselves as. But at the same time, the targets they've chosen, the National Nuclear Laboratory, NATO, if I was trying to put people off the scent, that's probably something you could do. Just make yourself out to be something. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so a lot of the hacks that you're going to see today, they're not, of course, they're not what you see in Hollywood, but they're not even what they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where you have someone who would just keep trying to penetrate a system, would maybe run a dictionary attack. A lot of the attacks that make it to the news today were done by advanced persistent threats. It's something that was in the system for a long, long time, slowly exfiltrating data until they got enough to do something actionable. So, like you said, if I wanted to throw someone off my APT roaming around a network, I would do something silly like this. And I would release some information that maybe wasn't so damning, but it would focus attention elsewhere. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying that would be a pretty good strategy if you want to conceal your network intrusion for as long as possible.
Yeah. No, I think so indeed. I mean, it's certainly a good way to, as you say, throw people off the scent and get them just thinking about something else rather than the fact that your data's just been completely stolen. And of course, the hacking sphere.
Also, the furry village at DEF CON is a lot of fun, and you should.
No. I did actually pop by last year. Earlier this year.
Yeah, they're great.
It was fun.
Nice people.
It's. I mean, there was a famous news story when we got a bunch of Syrian refugees coming over, and they were in a hotel. They'd been put in a hotel for the night, and it was the same hotel as a furry convention. And the kids just loved these furries. It was just all these photos of big beaming faces are wonderful.
Welcome to the United States. Here's a giant panda suit. Anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. You have an entire theme park devoted to a 6-foot mouse. But
True.
it is one of those things that is weird. And speaking of stuff that is both weird but also vaguely prevalent, video game manufacturers are being sued yet again for addicting our children to these terrible, terrible things. We're all old enough to have heard this 2, 3, 4 different times. Why on earth would anyone do this and expect, it's the old Einsteinian thing of, repeating the same thing again and again and expecting it to change the definition of madness. I mean, Doc, you've got family. Are you worried about them being addicted to video games, or are you just a standard parent that says, deal with it?
No. Well, I don't have any kids, but I have nieces and nephews that I promptly spoil and teach them all of these things like gaming consoles and things like that, of which I know that my sisters are really into, but that's because they read this kind of stuff and they freak out. And so I purposely give my nieces and nephews the things that freak them out to show them that it's nothing to freak out about, right? And it's kind of funny that people get so bent out of shape over these. And in the meantime, if you were to have a conversation with the average person in the U.S., having this conversation about how this is so bad and this is hurting kids and whatever, they are making a massive set of Pop-Tarts and a 20-ounce Pepsi and a bunch of other sugar-oriented things to hand to their kids and be like, here, eat this, and don't play video games because it's ruining your brain. So, I'm just like, go away with this stuff. It's so obnoxious. And I often wonder, why do people always look to blame somebody else for the stuff their kids do?
Yeah.
I'm like, your kids do what you taught them how to do, bro. I'm sorry. There's nothing much else than that. So if your kid would rather play a video game or do whatever, that's on you. And I think one of my favorite things is, when I take my niece out, I get her like twice a month on Fridays to come and hang out with me. And her mom's like, well, she just went on the phone the whole time. I was like, no, why? Because I have interesting conversations with her. So she talks to me. Why does she talk to you? She doesn't talk to me because I'm not trying to tell her what to do. I'm her uncle. My job is to spoil her. You're the mom. Your job is to be mad at her all the time. So she talks to me because I'm not coming from the same angle as you, and being a nerd and into anime and everything, I can speak her language. Maybe watch an anime and then be able to have a conversation with her. But you'd rather watch the Kardashians, so not my fault.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things. I mean, Harry, we're of a similar age. And I did love it. There was a poster I saw at one of the tech firms, and it was like, if video games were really warping our mind, everyone who played Pac-Man in the 80s would be getting very happy, running around darkened rooms, swallowing pills. And it was just like, actually, no, that's probably not the
you've been
best.
to my nightclub before?
Yeah, we kind of do that. Not the best example.
But I mean, we all grew up with video games.
Totally. I certainly remember my mother being concerned about how much time I spent playing them. Having just spent time with my niece and nephew at Thanksgiving, they're not addicted to video games. What they are addicted to are Dead Tree books, which they brought to the Thanksgiving dinner table. And so if this was the way to go about solving these kinds of issues, I would be advocating for suing Penguin or Doubleday or somebody.
Yeah, but in the land of the lawsuit, you might actually get away with it. But I mean, physical books is something that I think they're going through a bit of a resurgence with kids. It's like... The
kids are some of the most serious readers of all.
Although it was kind of disturbing to see somebody reading a magazine, a small child reading a magazine, and then trying to swipe the pages back. Yeah, I know. It's an awkward thing.
And 70 years ago, it was TV that was addicting kids, and it was also bad for your eyes, and the radiation was going to kill you.
Yeah, and it's just the same
Harry,
old
prior to
arguments.
that, it was books.
Yeah.
Which is really funny. If you go all the way back to Mercia, back then, like anybody that had books, you was up to no good. You know, you had to be properly indoctrinated by the local orator. Reading something in a book from abroad was taboo.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's
content. What we're talking about is content. So they're upset that video game manufacturers are making content that people want to consume. Content doesn't have to be a video game. It can be anything. Anyone can be addicted to a narrative, to a story. They can always want that next hit of their favorite TV show, always the next MCU episode of whatever it's going to be. This just happens to be video games. Now, there is no way to legislate against that. Yeah. However, I will say that there is a split here. So on one side, I'd say there are video games that are addictive. Like for me, it was Civilization.
Yep, Civ 2 is still one of the best. Yeah,
Civ 2. That's the game that I used to start playing at night, thinking I'm going to play 30 minutes, and then the next thing I know, the sun is coming up.
Yeah.
So then that was a refrain of my young adulthood. I see those as different from a lot of the microtransaction games, which will gradually they have used psychology to find that pain point. I am willing to pay 99 cents 1,000 times as I go through this game.
Right.
That is now becoming a gambling addiction. That's okay. That we can actually start looking at. But if you're going to try to tell me that I need to make my game boring so that people don't get addicted to it, you're not telling me anything I'm going to listen to.
I don't like what in-app purchases have done to games. Although I don't think that laws are the way to solve that. And it is a little bit different than games being so much fun that it's hard to stop playing them, which is ultimately, I think, that the parents' problem to solve. Because there is such a thing as spending too much of your time playing games.
Yeah. That is one of the horrific things about Steam, is it shows you how long you've been playing certain games, and it's just like, that's not good. Time to put this down and go and do some gardening. But no, I mean, I agree with you. It would be difficult to imagine Doom, for example, being as much fun if you had to actually buy the chainsaw or the BFG. You know, it's just, but games these days, even games that you pay for, you know, you basically have to buy. I suppose there is that technical fig leaf that you can complete the game without an in-app purchase. I think probably the caveat to be...
No, you can't. We all know you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you play this game for an additional 10,000 hours, you don't have to buy a thing. No.
Right.
No.
And then you get like a couple of goals if you watch these ads, which you don't want to watch the ads. So the first thing you do is you pay the premium to get rid of the ads, which is only like, $5. But now we killed that revenue stream. I've often wondered, does the level get harder when you turn off the ads? Because you're right, you get to this point where technically some of these games, the only way you can move forward is to buy something. I tend to just not play those games because those are obnoxious. So yeah. But I also find it funny that we are parents now of our age, because most of us are relatively close. I might be the oldest, but we came up without all of this weird paying for stuff. Yeah. And then now we're doing it. And you know what? A lot of us still game. And there's still parents out there talking about it's going to ruin these kids' mind. Yeah. In your circle of friends, one of your friends' wife or husband is a hardcore gamer still to this day, over the age of 50. So, really, dude? Really? Are you going to tell me, you're going to test my IQ and tell me I'm ruining my brain because I play games?
I will just say it to all the gamers out there, Pope Francis will smoke you in Fortnite any night. Seriously, that guy... He can 360 no scope like you wouldn't believe.
I do think he would be rather good at that. But yeah, I mean, we all play games. I myself, my wife was away yesterday, so I fired up SimCity 2000 for a quick hours. Well, what was supposed to be half an hour, but then it's just like, oh no, damn it, what's going on? Thankfully, we had a cat who was going to wake me up and just go, oi, we need feeding. But yes. Anyway, actually, speaking of feeding, this is another person who is sponsoring the podcast, and you can hear about it from Leo.
Thank you, Ian. I know it's Marmite. I know. I was testing you. Next week, I'm going to be gone again. Jason Howell will be filling in. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Jason, for sitting in the big chair for me. I'll be back in 2 weeks. But meanwhile, I do want to tell you about Mint Mobile because I'm a customer. So I can tell you with, actual experience, Mint Mobile is awesome. Look at your cell bill. What are you paying? $80, $90, $100 a month, maybe more? If you've got multiple family members on the plan, a lot more. That's crazy. That's crazy. Give yourself the gift of, speaking of crazy, insane savings this holiday season with Mint Mobile's best wireless deal of the year. I don't know how they do it. Well, I kind of know how they do it. They don't have stores. They save a lot of money on retail, and that means you save a lot of money. Right now, when you switch to Mint Mobile and buy any 3-month plan, you'll get another 3 months for free. So that's 6 months of premium wireless service for the price of 3. Wow. And you don't have to go to a store. You can't. Mint Mobile lets you order and activate from home while saving tons on phone plans. They start at $15 a month, and I mean all in. Nationwide talk and text, plus wireless data on the number 1 5G network in the country for $15 a month. I mean, that's a great gift, even if it's just to yourself. Turn that overpriced wireless bill into a $15 a month all-in bill with Mint Mobile. That is a great deal. It's Mint Mobile's best offer of the year. For a limited time, buy any 3-month plan and get 3 more months for free. Significant savings because Mint Mobile doesn't have those stores to pay for. And all the plans come with unlimited talk and text and high-speed data on the nation's largest 5G network. You can bring your own phone. They will send you a SIM for free, or if it uses eSIM, that's even easier. They sell phones. I got a wonderful iPhone SE. It was $15 a month for the iPhone SE and $15 a month for the mobile. $30, brand new phone and complete, mobile service, including, I think it was 5 gigs a month of wireless data for $15. That's $30 total. That's a third of what I'm paying for the other guys for just the service. And if you need a new device for a limited time, you'll get 6 months of free service in addition when you buy a select device and plan. So, I don't know how to sweeten this pot more. Just do it. It is minty fresh. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service. It starts at $15 a month. All those deals for a limited time by any 3-month Mint Mobile plan. You get 3 more months for free. You don't have to buy a device. You can bring your own, but honestly, they have some very nice devices with really good prices. Mintmobile.com/twit. Mintmobile.com/twit. Ryan Reynolds not included. Cut your wireless, he might. I don't know. He might show up. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/twit. I have to tell you, this is the real deal, and I love it. It's a real savings. All right. I'm tired. I want to take a break. Thank goodness Iain Thomson is here to finish the show. Iain, take it away.
I'm going to take a large pot of Marmite round to your house and smear over the door handle just for that one. But we'll see.
Them's fighting words.
Oh, well, anyway, in case you've missed it, as you're aware, this is a Sunday, so here's a quick review of what you could have seen and what you still can see from the last week's shows.
Jammer B, if he comes back in a week and asks you to start building the bomb shelter, will you let us know?
If he comes back and just walks into the studio with a case full of dance clothes and makes all of you guys wear it, let us know.
Previously on Twit. Hands on Tech.
I am Micah Sargent, and today we are reviewing Apple's new iPhone 15 Pro Max. But here's the kicker. We're also shooting this entire review on the iPhone 15 Pro Max.
Mac Break Weekly.
We have Type-C now on the iPhone. We're going to have RCS on Apple Messages. Both things Apple probably didn't want to do. Is this a victory for the EU's regulation?
Absolutely. I think this is why I like it when big tech companies, not just Apple, but everybody, gets sued. This is why I like it when there's a threat of really big, painful legislation.
We've already established that you're a communist, Andy. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, right?
So jest nerozumiem Republics.
This week in Google.
There's no definition of AGI.
AGI would be something that could reason as well as a human. That's a simple way to put it. But how do you know?
I want an AI to sit down and watch Nicolas Cage's movie Face Off and tell me the conflict and motivation between Nick Cage and John Travolta and not get them mixed up even once.
Twit.
Then I will believe in true AI.
I'm with Paris.
That's the Paris test.
The Paris test, indeed. And suddenly, in non-tech news, Paris Hilton is apparently expecting, or has just had, a new baby, which he's calling London Hilton. So it's just goes to show that idiocy spreads down the gene line, as it were.
You know what is so great about that role you just did is at ECAM, my marketing director, Katie, she has a little side project called the VHS Club, and they go over movies from like the 90s, and we just did Face Off like last Thursday. It's so good.
Oh, it's so
good.
it's so bad it's good. It's one of those films.
Exactly. That was my point. It's one of those that is so bad that it's good. And it's weird to watch it now that you're old enough to break apart the flaws in the plot and weirdness, you know? Or like the body types just changing. Like, that doesn't work, bro. Like, you guys are two total different body types. But yes, it was a very interesting to go back and watch Face Off. So since you brought it up, if you haven't, just to enjoy your life, go back and watch Face Off.
I was kind of scarred by that film, though, because I was flying back from Indonesia to London after a conference on Air Kuwait. And that was the sole English language film they had for the entire flight. And trust me, by the third viewing, you want to punch Nicolas Cage repeatedly in the face for his awful acting. But yeah. Anyway,
it was Palpatine all along.
Indeed. Well, enough of my problems, but I am a Brit here in the US, and the US is, of course, dedicated to manifest destiny, and so too is Google. If you use an ad blocker, on YouTube, for example, recently, you'll be getting messages saying that you've got to turn your ad blocker off if you want to get the full functionality from the site, because Google is lowering the bar on advertisers and third-party APIs. Now, this is in part due to what it's calling Manifest v3, which is how the browser handles outside content. And a lot of people are very concerned that when this is introduced at the start of next year, it's going to disable a lot of ad blockers. Now, why would Google care about ad blockers? That's just their entire business completely. Is this something we should be panicking about, Harry? I mean, is V3 that big a deal?
Well, on a technical level, my understanding is that some of the people involved with ad blocking say it's going to be a lot harder to do stuff, and there are other ones who say that they'll probably be okay and can continue to offer products. I mean, I do need to from a standpoint of full disclosure, I work for a media company that sells advertising, and
same do I.
If all ads were blocked, I might not eat, and so I'm a little bit conflicted. Although I also acknowledge there are such things as ads that are so incredibly annoying that they make you want to block them, and ultimately. The best kind of ads are ads you don't want to block because that they provide some value to you, and therefore the advertisers get something out of it, and the media companies do too. But it does seem like with this new Google stuff, some of it kind of boils down to technical issues, which if you're actually involved in this ecosystem, you're best situated to understand what the implications are. But presumably Google is not going to try to make it easier for ad blockers to work over time. They're going to make it harder to work.
Well, no, this is it. I mean, I can see your laptop and you can see mine. I don't use an ad blocker because, as you say, my publication role requires, a certain amount of advertising so I can keep myself in food. I mean, this is also going to cause problems in Europe, but in particular, it's just... Is it going to be the big game changer? Are people going to have their ad blockers completely disabled? This is the fallout from this. I mean, if all ad blockers went, Doc, do you think there'll be a riot?
Yeah, first of all, me personally, I don't use them anymore because they can be problematic for media content, which I'm normally looking at as a content creator. And I have to agree with Harry. I don't want to block the ad. It doesn't bother me until you do one of these things where you pull up a giant, sinus medication ad that just takes over the whole page, or starts auto-playing really loudly when I don't have my device on quiet, which is a rarity. But when it does happen, it's really obnoxious because it normally happens somewhere where you need to be quiet, like in a jury pool. So, I personally don't use them because I wrote for a long time for a site that, made their money through ads and didn't get to keep that job because ad blockers. I don't know if that's the only reason or just AOL software is being horrible. But yeah, I don't think people really understand none of the stuff that you're getting is free, right? Mm-hmm. And now that, especially as a content creator on YouTube, YouTube advertisement does make up a certain amount of my income. And yes, I use premium, and I do understand the premium split is still different from the people that don't use premium. But yeah, I think we just need to get over acting like we hate ads, because we don't. I tell my friends who tell me that, oh, this company is calling me and they're spamming me and I don't like them because I don't like that kind of sales. I'm like, yes, you do, because you don't have anything on your body right now or in your office right now that you didn't buy from some sort of recommendation. Maybe 20% out of the 80% of the stuff in your vision right now you picked up because of an ad, whether you like it or not. The difference is, to me, advertisement is similar to my time as a DJ in a nightclub. No, girls never complained when the guy that was hitting on them was hot. When the guy that was hitting on them looked like me, hey, call a bouncer. This guy is picking on me. I don't want to talk to him or whatever like that. So really, it's really, if your ads are good, you don't hate ads. You hate bad ads. Let's just be honest with ourselves. That's the deal. No, this is it. I mean, we've had, and I'm sure you've had these as well, Harry, when the ad salespeople for a publication would dearly love it that every time you went onto the publication, you got a full page ad directly in the face. And you have to point out to them that if that happens, people are either not going to come to the site or they're going to use ad blocking technology, and maybe you should think that one through. Padre, be honest here, do you use an ad blocker?
I do not, just because I want to support the people who are actually making the content for me. But that's a personal thing. On the technical side, this is sort of a non-starter because we know how to get around ad blockers, anti-ad blockers. You just block it upstream. Yeah. So, like, for example, I have a Pi-hole. Now, my Pi-hole is fully able to disable the serving of ads. I don't use it for that. I just use it so that I can have a local DNS caching. But that is a very simple, not super techie way to make all of this moot. All Google is doing is they're making it harder for you to write an extension to do ad blocking. But if the ad blocking happens upstream or before the browser, it doesn't do anything. I think what we need to do, like Doc said, is get rid of bad ads. I'm tired of the thousands of times that I've seen that YouTube ad for Hero Wars. That's silly. Pay as you go. I mean, I would be okay with watching ads, but I religiously hit the skip button on that just because it annoys me. If Google gave us a carrot and stick, if they actually were honest and saying, look, we need to make revenue somehow, we need to be able to let our partners make revenue somehow. However, we will put into place standards that make sure that the ads that get served are actually better for you or more interesting to you. I think most people would actually be okay with that. Yeah.
No, I mean, some of these ads. Sorry.
No, so the other thing that's really irritating is, and I don't know how to fix this one. This one drives me nuts. When I see an ad for something and it actually works, so I buy it because I like it. And then I keep seeing the ad. I'm like, fam, I already bought it. Can you stop? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got exactly what you told me to buy. I bought the DJI Pocket 3 DJI. Now stop sending me the freaking ad.
Yeah. No, I mean, for example, on the video service, which I watch occasionally, and which we all watch occasionally, I'm constantly being spammed by ads. And I'm signed in with my personal Google account, and I bought a Pixel phone, and I bought my wireless service from a provider related to Google, and I'm still getting adverts for it. Anytime you think that, all this behavioral advertising is getting so creepy, look at how bad it is. This is what really irritates me. It's like, if you're going to be a supervillain, at least be super.
Totally true. Yeah. I mean, I often feel like Mark Zuckerberg knows very little about me based on the ads he's showing to me, because they don't feel creepy and personal. They feel like they're trying to target somebody who shares very few interests
Yes.
that I have, when in theory Mark Zuckerberg should be able to do brilliantly targeted ads.
You'd think, I mean, considering the amount of information they have there, you'd think that they were going to be, okay, this person is thinking about buying this, spam them quick. But all that happens, as you say, is if you buy something, you get hit by bunches of ads for same or similar things. And
When
it's
I bought a car, like for a year after that, I got car ads, which was the very moment in which I was the worst possible target for a car ad because I was a new car owner.
Well, this is it. I mean, how delusional do these people think that, oh, right, this person's just bought something, so our advert is so great that maybe they'll just throw that huge investment away and buy our product instead.
Actually, I am legit getting Dyson hairdryer ads this week for Black Friday sale.
I'm sorry,
like,
I shouldn't
James,
laugh.
James, look at your man. He's follically challenged. Why are you sending me hairdryer ads, James? Vacuum, I might have bought, but really, the hairdryer and the curler, the hot curling iron. Thanks, James. Talk to your ad people.
I have been getting spammed recently by Candace Owens and PragerU ads, and I have no idea why.
Lord.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but it's either Hero Wars or those two. However, whenever it's one of those ads, I let it run all the way through. I just put it on mute and let it run because I want them to pay YouTube for that ad.
Yes.
Now, that's
I
malicious.
do that Google tax. When they do a sponsor ad at the top of a Google search, it is something that I'm mad at. I purposely click that instead of the normal link so that they have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Here,
Thank
pay
you.
this. There
I'm
you
not
go.
alone.
Conversion.
No, this is malicious compliance. I've done the same thing with sponsored links, particularly if it's a company I'm having to use but don't particularly like.
There are those tiny ad choices icons you can click, and you actually can do a lot of stuff in terms of saying that this ad is not relevant to me. I don't want to see it again. But I think the big concern is if you start blocking the ads that are kind of okay, you get worse and worse ads rather than better and better ads. And I spent a little bit of time blocking advertisers on Twitter. Like I mentioned, I blocked Cheech and Chong. I don't seem to have gotten better ads because of that. I've gotten even skeevier ads because of that.
Oh, you do get some really weird ones. My favorite was for survival seeds, or seeds as they're known. But yes, survival.
No. These are survival seeds. These are special.
So they
You're gonna
charge
need them in
5
the
times
apocalypse.
more, and let's not kid ourselves. When the apocalypse comes, we're all dying. It's not like a 5-pack.
Speak for yourself. We've got a bunker with 10 years worth of food over here, so we're good.
Well, the Vatican always looks ahead for these things. Certainly, you do have the experience in it. But right, okay. Well, it's looking like another Twitter's in the bag, and Leo will be back a little while. But Jason will be taking the Dr. Evil chair, and I have to say it's very comfy indeed. But I would like to thank our guests, Harry McCracken. Thank you very much for coming into the office.
I had a great time, and you did a great job, Ian.
Oh, please, no.
And Padre and Doc were both great.
Yep, Doc in Hawaii. We'll let you get to the beach now. It's what time is it out there? It's got to be about 1 o'clock, so time for...
It is 2:39, but it is probably raining now. I just got a carrot weather alert with the sweary parts on. Forgive me, Father.
No forgiveness needed. Go.
But no beach today. It's raining. I get to go to the mother-in-law's and eat leftover Thanksgiving like everybody else in the U.S.
Oh, I know. I'm so sick of turkey at this point, but
I don't even eat that stuff in the first place.
I miss turkey.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Padre, but on the other hand, you have Italian pastries, coffee, and some of the best food on the planet. So forgive me if you're not feeling that.
I'm so tired of Italian. I am so tired of Italian. I am so tired of Italian. I want to go home and just eat like Olive Garden just to get the taste of Italian food out of my mouth.
Oh my goodness!
I'm amazed they haven't thrown you out of the country.
That is a cardinal sin.
I mean, that said, there is a thing going in the UK called pot noodles, and I do crave those about once every 10 years, and it's just it's something about the chemical aftertaste, you know, it's the really gritty texture that it's just like you eat one and
anytime someone is describing cuisine and they use the phrase chemical aftertaste, that's not normally leading you to a good place.
Hang on, you mean to tell me New York hot dogs aren't supposed to taste like that? You know? It's just
Gray's
New York hot
papaya.
dogs are
Gray's
the
papaya.
best.
There you go.
I had to explain to somebody that for real, when you go, because my friend was going, he's like, what should I do? Is whatever you do when you get a hot dog, do not ask for ketchup on a hot dog in New York. That is the first way to get sent home.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just don't even bother. Just take it as is.
Yeah.
But I want ketchup. No, you don't. These are not the ketchup you're looking for.
Well, it's red at least, but it just tastes like sort of red sugar. But it's one of those things. But thank you all for coming in, and thank you for watching and listening, depending on, and the Discord channel as well, for putting in some lovely ideas and suggestions and corrections. And that picture of Marmite will be with me for quite some time. In the meantime, another twit is in the can.
He's amazing.